Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the threat that Trump poses to this nation, to the people who supported him. We will pick up the mantle to educate the people about his actions, from being dictator on day one, pardoning January 6th domestic terrorists, implementing Project 2025, and any other draconian measures he tries to pass. And now, the resistance begins. Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. We will open up the phone lines in a little bit and announce the phone number then, but leave your questions, comments, etc. in the show chat, either at liberaldanradio.com, which is the YouTube channel, or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Got a bunch of stuff to talk about today because the Donald Trump administration has not kept this, it's basically made it very easy to have a podcast. But as I said back in November, I would have much rather have a boring podcast where I had trouble finding things to talk about than having all of these fish in barrels to shoot. Now, just to let everybody know, if you're in the Secret Service or, think that 86 is somehow a nefarious thing, we'll get to more of that in a second. But shooting fish in a barrel is, not a threat of harm against anybody, just in case anybody's planning on being ridiculous. Because people are being ridiculous with this whole darn thing. And we'll talk about that more later. We have stuff to rant about. We got more stuff to rant about. We'll allow some people to trickle in first as we talk about some stuff, I guess. First and foremost, most important thing is tomorrow is my birthday. I am the big 49, or at least I will be the big 49 in about 4 hours and 1 minute. We started a little earlier just in case Hal was ending and we wanted to see if Hal was going to rate us. So that's why I maybe pulled the trigger on starting a little bit early. But no, Leanna, the music that we start with is the same music that we end with because it's a good catchy little tune. Thank you, Jeff. Who we got in the chat so far? We've got Aaron, we've got Josh, Jeff from just north of Uranus, Leanna, Jolie's here. Good to see you, Jolie. Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
I forgot for Jolie.
I like turtles.
There you go. Who else we got so far? I think I said hello to everybody so far. I'm still a pup. Actually, I looked a little younger because somebody gave me a Pelicans, an NBA New Orleans Pelicans hat, and I threw it on backwards, and I was like, oh, I look a little younger with my hat on backwards. So yeah. See, it's weird because me saying that I'm 49 and my knees do make me feel, both of those things make me feel old. However, when my mother posted that she's a mother of someone who's almost 50, that was like, oof, almost 50. Yikes. That made me feel even older than that. So, yeah. Anyway, so what do we want to talk about today? What are we going to start talking about today? I guess some Louisiana news. I'm sure y'all have heard about the big OPP jailbreak. Orleans Parish Prison is what the Sheriff's Department's jail is referred to. And apparently when 10 people were asked, are you down with OPP? They said, hell no, and they broke out of jail. Now, of course, this leads to more confusion because normally when you put somebody, temporarily pre-trial, it's a jail. But for some reason in New Orleans, we decided to call it a prison, the Orleans Parish Prison. Because we have to do things differently, especially, because in New Orleans, it's a parish and not a county. So, of course, we do things differently there as well. Thank you, Jolie. Hey, Mad Matt, good to see you. It's the 28th anniversary of my 21st birthday. That's an interesting way to put it. This administration is making old ladies look a lot older. I mean, this administration is giving you a lot of gray hair. Now, I was just thinking the other day. I was thinking this, I think, yesterday. Hey, Orville, it'll be good to see you over on Twitch with Aaron. I was just thinking, like, I was mad. I was angry. I was annoyed during the pandemic at all of the people acting recklessly, at all of the people acting irresponsibly, at all of the people putting other people's lives at risk by attending large events, by insisting on going to large public church services, by insisting on hanging out at the beach and going to Sturgis. The Sturgis rally is what caused my first Liberal Dance Chopper City ad campaign, my fictional establishment where I started off selling used motorcycles that I picked off because all of the dead people from Sturgis that caught COVID there. Anyway, so those people made me. Those people. I mean, it's probably still the same people, but those people, made me aggravated, mad, frustrated, etc. I was just. I would actually confronted some people at stores. Basically, was like, I tried to start getting clever with it. I was like, with one person, I was like, did they sell invisible masks now? That's awesome. You have to tell me the website where they get the invisible masks, because that's awesome that you're able to have an invisible mask on so that no one can see it. Or in other times I would be, maybe a little more cordial and be like, excuse me, your mask dropped below your nose. If they were wearing one, but wearing one incorrectly. But most of the times when I've said things, it was because people were being careless, insensitive, stupid pricks who claim to be pro-life but don't care who they kill through their actions. Anyway, so why am I saying all this about those people that piss me off? Because I'm pretty much at the point now where the people who still continue to support Donald Trump with all of his Nazi bullshit, yeah, that has gotten me there. I'm even past that. I think I'm even past where I was with that, because honestly, they're putting more people's lives at risk. Because if you tacitly approve of Nazism, you are tacitly approving for the harming of many, 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 many people. Hey, Suzanne. Hey. Anyway, so back about that. So back to the prisoners. Yeah, we were talking about the OPP. Yeah, you know me. We might be down with OPP, but again, those 10 people weren't. I believe they've caught 5. Before I started making dinner tonight, they had only caught 3. And one of them that they caught, so New Orleans, if you look at the map of New Orleans, it's bisected by the Mississippi River. And I live on the west bank of that river, even though the west bank is on the south side of where we are. In fact, you actually have to go southeast to get to the west bank when you're crossing the bridge that I cross every day when I pick up my youngest son from school. So, go figure. But because it's mostly going down the country, we are on the west bank of it. And the other side is on the east bank, obviously. So, apparently, 3 of these people crossed that bridge, went into the next parish over, Jefferson Parish, and got caught at a Raising Cane's. Apparently, they needed some chicken tendies and just could not go without and couldn't wait. I understand that. I'm sure that the food at Orleans Parish Prison is probably crap. I mean, that's what you get. But yeah, they were caught at, just at a fast food place. And later on that day, it happened in the morning, it happened about 8:30. They didn't let anybody know until 10:30. There's excuses behind that, whatever. But my oldest was late coming home from school on the bus, because instead of letting everybody out all at one at a time, or everybody out at the same time, to go on their buses and leave, they basically were dismissing bus after bus after bus and not telling the students what was going on. And then they had indoor dismissal with the people who get picked up normally, but my son comes out anyway. He came to the car, and that's when I told him what was going on. So I think they've caught 2 more since then. So it's not a 2 more anyway. So yeah, that's fun. I mean, but how dumb are you? How dumb are you to stay in the area? Don't stay in the area. get as far away from New Orleans as possible. Make it so that people are less likely to see you. Now, I mean, I don't know how that happens. You know, maybe, okay, you stole a car, maybe you steal a car or something, I don't know. But I guess this is why these people are criminals, because they can't make money any other way. So therefore, they're criminals and they're going to commit crimes, and a lot of criminals are dumb. Especially because a lot of criminals get cocky and try and outkick their coverage. They try and, you know, go do more than what they're able to do. But yeah, why? I guess I don't understand the mind of a criminal. I mean, I can predict what Trump is going to do because it's like predicting the actions of a kindergartner. But, you know, with these criminals, or these alleged criminals, supposedly, hey, it's the House Sparks, folks. Good to see House Sparks and the Sparklers coming in. We were just talking about the Orleans Parish Prison escape on Friday, and how if you... again, the initials for Orleans Parish Prison are OPP. So are you down with OPP? Apparently those 10 prisoners were not, but 5 of them are going to go back. And there was some like back and forth in the press conference between Mayor LaToya Cantrell and the governor, Jeff Landry, because apparently there's some, you know, questioning as to who's to blame. Because one of the reason that these individuals were on the first level is because the state was utilizing the Orleans Parish Prison for their people that they shouldn't have been doing. So apparently it was a little more full than would normally be, which made it easier for the people to escape. So there was some barbs thrown back and forth about that, and perhaps the state of Louisiana bears a little bit of responsibility when it comes to that. So. Hey, John in the chat, good to see you. Hey, Roxanne. Hey, Carry On, Can't Stop Lying, Quesadilla 79, Celsius Sky, Sarasota FOH, glad to see Atrocious at every game. Turd Ferguson, good to see you, Turd Ferguson. Or should I say, what was it? Frick, I can't remember what the... Burt Reynolds. That's right. Hey, Burt Reynolds. I should call you Burt Reynolds. Not my name. It's not my name. Turd Ferguson. One of the best Saturday Night Live clips there are. Hey, Big Hook. Good to see you in the chat as well. So, yeah. And then apparently, you know, there was, not to be outdone, there was a plantation fire. And this is one of the plantations that held wedding events and ceremonies. And, you know, it got burned down. Good riddance to old rubbish. And there are lots of racists who are crying over the fact that the people are not planning to rebuild the plantation. I mean, if it's burned down to the ground, I mean, what are you going to have? You're not going to have the actual plantation house that was built anyway. But, you know, reasonable people understand that you're not supposed to celebrate slavery. And so when people were getting married at these plantations, they were basically celebrating or being thoughtless and careless about whatever. Now, the Whitney plantation is a plantation that Donald Trump's, you know, Doge, the fake department of old geriatric, I don't know, idiots with an E? I don't know. Hey, Time, but thank you. Apparently, some of the money that was slated to go there is potentially getting cut because of the Elon Musk Doge cuts. But the Whitney Plantation doesn't do things like that. The Whitney Plantation is there to teach people about the horribleness of slavery, which is probably why Donald Trump and Republicans, whatever, MAGA folks, don't want you learning about it, don't want to support that, because they don't like teaching about the negatives that this country has done in the past. You know, DeSantis with his whole idea of, oh, we should only teach American exceptionalism, and we should teach that at least the slaves got to learn a skill that they could use later on in life. Yeah, all those slaves that died in slavery during the chattel slavery from the 1600s to the 1800s, those hundreds of years of people who, you know, lived that way and didn't get to move on afterwards. Then, of course, afterwards, you have sharecropping, you had Jim Crow, you had all these other horrible rules that made it also impossible for black people, especially black people in the South, to make a living. So, yes, Tahila, 8647. We will get there for a second. Let's see, atrocious. Nikki Haley thinks the Civil War was fought over government overreach or some horseshit. Exactly. And there is only one video that I will ever share from Prager University, whatever university it is, but PragerU, from Dennis Prager, usually posts a bunch of BS. All of their crap is a bunch of BS, except for this one video that some, I think, retired general put forward or whatever, and he basically explains that, yes, the Civil War was about slavery. No way that it wasn't about slavery. Hey, Rose, how's it going? Say hello to all the sparklers that are joining us in the chat. Let's see. Didn't they have to change the name to PragerU because they're so clearly not a university? That's probably why they changed it to PragerU, so that, you know, people wouldn't be duped, I guess. I mean, after Trump University debacle, you want to make sure that you're not sending any money, especially to people claiming that they're not. Hey, Cece. Hey, Sherry. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us in the chat. One of my local friends. Good to see you here on the show. So, I'm surprised, Rose, you haven't shown anybody your butthole yet. Although the last time Rose was on the show, she just bit the crap out of me, which is not good. Yeah, Bicycle Mike, South had free labor, hard to compete with that. Exactly. Oh, you being lovey on me? Rose is never lovey on me. I mean, she wants scratches, but she never is lovey on me. That's a shock. Anyway, so everybody, I did want to say thank you all for rating. Appreciate you. Tomorrow is my birthday. I would love for y'all to get as many people to subscribe to my channel as you possibly can tomorrow. I'm trying to hit 2,000. I'm trying to get my numbers up. So if you could get a bunch of people to subscribe to liberaldanradio.com as a birthday gift for me, that would be really appreciated. If you want to Venmo me a little bit, at Liberal Dan on Venmo, or buy me a cider, go to liberaldan.com, click the buy me a cider button, gift memberships, whatever, all the other ways. But the best way to do it is to get more people subscribing, comment on videos that I've already posted, like, share, get the algorithm up, because as I've said, Al Gore needs more rhythm. Thank you, Triva, for becoming Liberal Danimal. Appreciate you. Hey, Surrender Monkey, good to see you as well. 5/20/1995. Oh, I wish I was that young. Wow. Yeah, I graduated high school in 94. So thank you, Sherry, for the happy birthday. Hold on. Here you go. Good catch. My son left his oh, no, I'll get another cord. I was using the same cord. Anyway, thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate you. See, thank you, Atrocious. Yeah, Rose is very cute. And the only one that joins me for the podcasts. I don't know why Sophia doesn't join me. Gloria hates me. All my animals are named after Golden Girls characters, by the way. So, yeah. Let's see. So what else we going to talk about? Today, federal judge partially strikes down protections from workplace harassment based on gender identity. On May 15th, the federal judge partially overturned guidance from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that explained how certain behavior towards employees based on their preferred gender identity can constitute illegal workplace harassment. Judge Matthew J. Kazmarek of the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of Texas ruled that the EEOC's guidance went beyond the authority of the Civil Rights Act and Supreme Court precedent. However, the Supreme Court ruled in 2020 in Bostock versus Clayton County that firing an employee based on their sexual orientation or gender identity would violate their right to protection from sex-based discrimination. So this judge is an activist conservative judge going against judicial president. Thank you, Mike, for the 99 cents. Appreciate you. The EEOC, let's see, enforcement guide on workplace harassment, yada, yada, yada. Impact. 70% of transgender respondents to a 2022 survey said that they had experienced workplace discrimination or harassment. Whatever happened to the idea that conservatives don't like when lower courts put something on the entire nation? Whatever happened to that? Hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. And here on Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right, we like to highlight conservative hypocrisy. Every once in a while, we will do what is called the Hypocrite of the Week. And here is this week's Hypocrite of the Week. This week's Hypocrites of the Week are the entirety of MAGA. MAGA folks are whining over James Comey posting 8647. They claim it's a call for violence. 86, to most people, is the restaurant term for removing something from the menu. Only the mafia thinks otherwise. Are Are you part of the mafia, MAGA folks? To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio for more talk from the left. That's right. See, atrocious every game says states' rights except when a state tries to protect a marginalized group. Exactly. Except for the fact there's no such thing as state rights. I love driving conservatives crazy with my being overly pedantic of this, because the rights belong to people. States have powers. There is when you say that you deny that states' rights, they'll be like, well, what about the 10th Amendment? I'll be like, what about the 10th Amendment? Let me know. Go read it. Let me know where it says the word rights in the 10th Amendment. 10th Amendment says powers, not rights. The idea, I used to think that conservatives would think that the idea of conflating a governmental power with an individual right would be morally abhorrent. But as I've said, hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite, and as such, they are going to have no problem doing whatever it is they want to do. Like, conservatives support gun rights, except for when Ronald Reagan signed legislation in California, when he was governor of California, that would have prevented the Black Panthers from having guns. And the NRA was nowhere to be found on that either. I guess the Constitution doesn't exist for black people, right? There's another example. There is an individual in Florida who, just like, was it Marissa Alexander? I'm forgetting I know it's M. Alexander. She was a domestic violence victim. She, instead of shooting the person who she thought was a danger to her, she fired a warning shot in the air. And then got arrested because she fired a warning shot. Apparently firing a warning shot is illegal in Florida, but shooting Trayvon Martin, legal in Florida. George Zimmerman got away with it for his so-called self-defense. But Marissa Alexander, I think that's her name, was not allowed to self-defense. And then somebody else is also now not being allowed the ability to defend himself by shooting around in the air. Now, granted, it's a little dangerous to shoot around in the air. I mean, at least in the house, it's not likely to go far. So shooting a round in the air poses a danger to people around you. That being said, so does, if you're not a good shot, so could firing a bullet straight ahead at somebody. But when black people try and defend themselves, they do not get to invoke stand your ground. They do not get to invoke, self-defense laws. Those are only for white people. So, hey, Teresa, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the follow over on Twitch. Thank you so much. But anyway, so it drives conservatives nuts whenever I bring up the fact that there's no such thing as states' rights, because they hang their hats on state rights all the time. And in fact, I'll use the term states' rights when conservatives try to say that the Democrats are the ones that founded the Klan and the Democrats started slavery and Republicans were the ones that freed the slaves, like Lincoln. I'll be like, well, sure, that the names of the parties were the same, but it's always been conservatives who have been touting the lie of states' rights. Conservatives started the Klan. Conservatives believed that states had the so-called right, i.e. the power, to enslave people, putting them to work, treating them as subhuman. And they use the term states' rights, and now it's conservatives that do that as well. So it's always been conservatives, even if their party has changed. Leopards may not be able to change their spots. They might change their parties, but they might change their spots. And of course, many people didn't think that the leopards would eat their face. Whoa, I never thought the leopards would eat my face. Anyway, little catchy tune for you and me, because Republicans are full of hypocrisy. Anyway, so what else to talk about today? I was trying to find a link to this before we started the show, but we did not. But we'll go over it in a second. We'll go find this. Find a link, maybe. Let's see. Labels are BS. What kind of labels are BS? Well, conservatives and liberals and stuff like that. I mean, there are people where labels, fit perfectly, and then there are labels where, it doesn't necessarily match perfectly, but it's the closest thing. Like, some people would probably try and say that I'm not a leftist because of certain things that I say, but I say I'm probably closer to progressive and a leftist than other people are. But again, labels don't fit me. But I call myself Liberal Dan because a conservative talk show host labeled me Liberal Dan. So that's how that happened. But yeah. But back to 86. So, 8647. Comey decided to post 8647. Now, the only thing that Comey did wrong with that is that you have to anticipate the ridiculousness of MAGA. You have to anticipate the ridiculous that you know that if you say something, that you have to be clear that you're not calling for violence. Just like on this show, I've said that, I wish that we could be unprecedented, and I'll be like, legally, of course, or I'll say that President Trump should be removed from office, legally, of course. I always make sure to throw in that caveat so the fools, the trolls, the idiots, the MAGAs, that's just redundant, I guess, they don't have the opportunity to come after me. Comey didn't do that, and it opened the door for them to be able to say. Now, granted, Donald Trump did say in 2016 after the Nevada primaries that he loves the poorly educated, so the idea that I would expect them to read additional things is maybe asking a bit much of them, because that just assumes they have the capability to read and comprehend things, which is questionable at best. That being said, the term 86 is not a term that means anything about murder for the majority of the people who use the term 86. Old coffee pots used to hold 85 cups of coffee, so when you ran out, 86. Or when you're removing something from the menu at a restaurant, like let's say you have specials for the day. You have the tuna and the beef special and the soup, and let's say they sold out the soup and they said 86 the soup. So now you don't have the soup again. It's an easy way to say just remove the soup from the specials thing. That's what 86 means. Get rid of it. It doesn't imply violence. It doesn't mean you're going to take a gun and shoot the soup. It doesn't mean you're going to do violence to the soup. If I have a good soup, I will violently eat it. But other than that, it doesn't mean that. The only people who think, I called into this conservative talk show on Friday morning to talk about this whole stupid 86 thing. And the guest that this host had on was basically saying that 86, she believed it meant like 8 miles out of town and 6 feet under, which is something, looking all this crap up to try and figure out where the hell she came up with that. Apparently there were people who believe that that's something that the mafia would say. And so what I'm saying is that if you believe that 86 implies any sort of violence, then guess what? Maybe you have mob ties, and maybe you should be investigated for said mob ties. But most normal, reasonable, intelligent people understand that 86 doesn't imply violence. And this whole non-controversy is just more MAGA jumping the shark. But it's just probably another example of flooding the zone. They're just going to put more and more ridiculousness out into the public sphere. They're going to put more and more ridiculousness out there, because we can't possibly fight everything, which is why we need all hands on deck, which is why we need everybody to bolster and push all of the shows that are pushing left, liberal, progressive type stuff out there, because we need to fight the conservative voices out there, because not any one of us can do it alone. So that means Hal, Midas Network, Boston Brian, myself, Tommy, my dude, Trucker John, lots of other people. I know I'm forgetting people. So anyway, what do you think about this? Leave your comments down below. Agree, disagree. Make sure to share, like, subscribe, and of course, unless you believe that 86 implies violence, have a good night. And for those people who are new to the show, that's how I record things live to make it easier for me to upload later after the show. I don't end the show now. The show's not ending. We're far from ending, trust me. But whenever I do record a live bit that I want to upload later, we record that live bit. Let's see. 86 is always would use for cutting a jump off for more servings of booze. That's also another thing that I found in my research. But I've also, when I worked in restaurants, 86 meant remove something from the menu. But I did see that in my research as well, as to how these people could possibly think 86 means something violent. So 187 would be, I think, the death of a cop. I think it is an on-duty cop. I think that's a 187. Or from the Snoop Dogg song, 187 on an undercover cop or whatever. So, yeah. Yeah, I do listen to Little Snoop every now and then. A Georgia abortion law text. I want to pull up the actual text. I only have the Wikipedia article up there. There we go. That's what we were looking for. So, yeah, Triva, non-controversy. I've been using the term non-controversy for a while now because it's not a controversy. It's a non-controversy. Anyway. So we talked about the jailbreak. We talked about the burned plantation. We talked about the Texas judge and the LGBTQA. Oh, I don't know if we finished talking about that. But anyway. But yeah, basically, they're hypocrites. Anyway, that's that. Supposedly, I was going to make Kid Rock Hypocrite of the Week because it was reported that Kid Rock closed his restaurant that he owns with under the idea that the feds were going to come and raid the restaurant to detain people who are undocumented migrants. Now, supposedly, Kid Rock refutes that and says that he's not involved in the day-to-day operations of the business. There's no way that he would have known. And of course, Kid Rock fully and wholeheartedly supports Donald Trump's attempts to illegally mass deport people. More on that in a second. There is one more thing, though, that I want to bring up. Let me add this in here. One more thing to bring up about the 86 non-controversy and the hypocrisy of Donald Trump and the MAGA folks is that, remember when Donald Trump said that Liz Cheney should have 9 guns pointed at her? That was a threat of violence. That was a legitimate, at least he wanted violence to be done to her. I don't know if he was literally threatening that should be something that does, but he said he'd like to see it. And the person who was dictator on day one, you'd think they would try and do it. Person who wants military parades in his honor probably would do something like that. But that is a more violent statement than 86. So, Big Hook, thank you for the $10 or is it 10 Canadian dollar? 10 loonies. Buy yourself some ice cream. See you next Tuesday. If you see Kay, give her my best because it's your birthday. Hilarious. Yes. I remember when my youngest son was walking around saying see you next Tuesday, and it never even occurred to me that he was saying see you next Tuesday, i.e. see you next Tuesday. I don't know where he got it from, but that was hilarious. But thank you so much again, Big Hook, for the $10. But what else? Donald Trump and his tariffs are now causing Walmart to roll back price increases and make them higher. I don't know if that's roll back or roll forward or what, but Walmart's raising their prices. Why? Because Donald Trump is incorrect about tariffs. Donald Trump is incorrect in saying that these countries would be paying the price of the tariffs. Even his Caroline Leavitt podium Barbie gets up there and says, these tariffs are going to be paid for by countries. They're not paid for by us. Well, when the costs are passed on to us, yes, they're paid by us. And when Walmart has to pay the price, paid on those tariffs, then they're going to pass on those prices to us as opposed to passing on the savings. And I thought of this earlier today, and then I think Nicole Wallace stole my thunder because she said the same thing before I got to get on the air, which was the fact that, Donald Trump is demanding that Walmart eat the price of the tariffs. Well, Trump, Walmart is not going to eat the tariffs, much like the people were not eating the dogs or eating the cats. That's just the way it is.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anyway. Let's see. I tried before, but it wouldn't let me send a more polite political message. Nice, Big Hook. I didn't even open up this thing yet to have that fourth window open because I'm slacking. Let's see. When the drunks get 86 from the bar, the next step is getting the bouncer to toss them out. That's not murder. Yep, that is a correct statement as well. All sorts of different ways to use the term 86. Serena Monkey, how is Dan's missus? I see a lot happier as an angry lip, so I'm guessing she's doing... She is doing amazingly better. I mean, we're still catching up on all the medical bills. I have the GoFundMe listed up on the top of the show description on YouTube, on liberaldanradio.com. However, I appreciate everybody that supported that so far. She is doing much better. She still has physical and occupational therapy twice a week, back to back on Mondays and Wednesdays. So I brought her to that this morning. Even I noticed that she was making, like, her strides were longer. And I was like, make sure to tell them that your strides are longer, and that your husband is impressed. And they actually were impressed with the fact that I noticed and recognized the fact that she was taking larger strides now and not taking like tiny little steps. I mean, she still has a long way to go. But at least she can eat normally. She can drink normally. Nothing tastes like garbage. Hopefully she'll be able to get weaned off the insulin, because before they started doing the immunoglobulin therapy to help cure the Guillain-Barré syndrome, they started off doing a steroid regimen, and the steroid regimen caused her blood sugar to skyrocket, so they'd put her on insulin at the hospital, and she's still currently on insulin now. Hopefully she'll be able to get weaned off of that. That being said, you know, it's still going to be a long time. What's going to be interesting is, like, the first week of July, we're going to Myrtle Beach with family, meeting up with my dad and stepmom out there, and my stepsister and everything, meeting up with all them. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how she reacts on the beach. If she's going to be able to walk on the beach. Now, they've been practicing with her by putting, like, mats down and putting, like, little stones underneath the mat to make it seem like it's on an even surface, to try and simulate to the best as they can what a sandy condition might feel like with her feet, to get her used to that sort of thing. But again, you know, from the point where I was, like, in late January, early February, when I was sitting here paranoid over the fact that might be a single dad and that I might lose my wife over this whole thing because they couldn't figure anything out. I'm doing much better about that too. She's also doing much better though. So I appreciate you asking for it. So, so you had Jeremy, 100 proof alcohol plus 86 is 186 plus 1. The number one King Trump, 187. The president is on top of law enforcement officer according to the Constitution. That's the best math I got. Very good, Head Jeremy. That's excellent. I give you several Oklahomas for that. No, it was not just diabetes. So, hey, David, good to see you. And hey, 56 Nick Rich, good to see you as well. If I miss saying hello to you, it's because it's scrolling a little faster than normal. So, but that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing that it scrolls fast. So, see, I had the same problem after using my steroid eye drops. And it's one of the negative side effects of steroids. And then she was having this eye thing that was going on where her pupil went, like, off center and then it went back. They were trying to figure out what was going on with that. So she went to the... we brought her to the ER because the doctor said go to the ER. Actually, the physical occupational therapy people said go to the ER. So that's why I think I had a late show that Wednesday, because of that, when that happened, because I did want to talk about some stuff that night. But yeah, it was a very long day, and it was almost another flooding day where I almost lost my car again. Didn't lose a car recently, but yeah. But they were about to put her on a 25 pill per day over the course of 3 days steroid regimen at 50 milligrams per pill, which was a lot. And she was like, I'm going to be ravenous, but that would have probably caused her blood sugar to spike even higher, which would have sucked or whatever. But fortunately, yes, Easy E, we were going to talk about Joe Biden. We could talk about Joe Biden now. Before we get to some of the other topics, With President Biden, announcing his cancer, and not just that he had cancer, but that it spread to his bones, I was anticipating horribleness from MAGA, and they disappointed me by not disappointing me. I would have loved to have seen them just be simply, we wish him well, but no. These people were trying to throw in as many horrible comments as possible. Even J.D. Vance was trying to make it all about political stuff when making comments about his illness. Now, the Trump official Truth Social account did have nice words to say, which makes me just think that it was somebody else that wrote it. We'll see what goes on. I wish his family the best. He deserves a lot better than what he got. And I'm just glad he was able to beat Trump that one time, because he might have put at least a small patch in the hole that was leaking our goodness out of this country. Did I agree with Joe Biden and everything? No. Do I agree with any politician on everything? No. I don't even agree with myself from 2004 when I ran for office back then. So there are policies I supported then I don't support now. So, if I can admit that I didn't agree with myself back then, clearly there will be no other politician that I would agree with more than me. And even I disagree with me from way back in the day, i.e. 21 years ago. Wow. Still feel old. There was no spelling errors in the tweet. It was 100% non-Trump. Good point. Very good point there, Atrocious. Hey, Progressively Independent, good to see you. Easy E Network, good to see you as well. If I didn't say hello to TV2 Live, I did see TV2 Live earlier, so thank you for that as well. Thank you for stopping by. TV2 is one of the many shows, many channels I link to on the Friends of the Show page over at liberaldan.com. There's two shows. There's two websites, liberaldan.com and liberaldanradio.com. Liberaldan.com just brings you to my blog, which I don't really use much because people don't read much anymore, right? And then liberaldanradio.com is the link to the YouTube channel. So, anyway. Then, of course, there's this BS. DHS mulls reality show for immigrants seeking U.S. citizenship. Department of Homeland Security confirmed it is in the early stages of vetting a potential reality show that would have immigrants competing for fast track to citizenship. As first reported by the Daily Mail, the mind Rob Warsoff, we're worse off with this show. The mind behind Duck Dynasty approached the department about the idea, in which he envisions celebrity immigrant hosts welcoming immigrants who would then undertake competitions across the country, as digging clams in Maine or rafting in Colorado. DHS spokesperson Trisha McLaughlin said the show is in its very beginning stages of a vetting process, noting the department received numerous requests for participation in television programming, yet not once have they spoke about such things. But they are speaking about this one, which shows that they're serious about doing this bullshit. Because that's what it is. It's bullshit. Is it legal? I mean, the Supreme Court has basically said that anything Donald Trump does is legal, right? I mean, they did say that he's presumed all of his actions are, that are done as president he's immune from prosecution, supposedly, because of their activist court ruling. And other things that are questionable, he's given the benefit of the doubt. But they did leave room open, I guess, that you could potentially have criminal charges against actions done as president that are not presidential. That being said, how are you going to get the information if you can't subpoena the information? Because the same ruling said that the information, the communications within the executive department, within the executive branch of government, are all privileged and therefore can't be subpoenaed. Then how do you arrest him and try him after his term for anything? Because how do you get the proof? So, Kristi Noem said she didn't know anything about the show. Kristi Noem also believes that supports the idea that you can, because of the invasion by illegal immigrants, you can then use the constitutional clause to get rid of habeas corpus during times of invasion, which is clearly not what the founders meant. So they also took away mens rea. Yep, they did that as well. We discussed that on a previous show. So, all right, so we've got to that, given that about all the due time that it's worth. So let's switch the image up here for a second. There you go. This Georgia abortion law lie. Now, people are saying that the Georgia abortion law is preventing the state of Georgia from allowing a woman who is brain dead to die because she's over 6 weeks pregnant. According to the AP, hospital tells family brain dead Georgia woman must carry fetus to birth because of abortion ban. A pregnant woman in Georgia who was declared brain dead after a medical emergency has been on life support for 3 months to let the fetus grow enough to be delivered. A move that her family says the hospital told was required under the state's strict anti-abortion law. First and foremost, ignoring the fact that this is how MAGA feels about women. We'll get more about that in a second. Who's paying for this? Are they going to make this family pay to keep this woman alive so that she could be an incubator for a fetus? That's crap. With her due date still more than 3 months away, it could be one of the longest such pregnancies. Her family is upset that Georgia's law that restricts abortion once cardiac activity is detected doesn't allow relatives to have any say whether a pregnant woman is kept on life support. Georgia's so-called heartbeat law is among the most restrictive in the nations, has been put in place in many states since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade via Dobbs v. Jackson. Adriana Smith, 30-year-old mother and nurse, was declared brain dead, meaning she's legally dead. Her mother, April Newkirk, told Atlanta TV station WXIA. Newkirk said her daughter had intense headaches for more than 3 months ago and went to Georgia's Northside Hospital. Received medication and was released the next morning. Her boyfriend woke to her gasping for air, called 911. Emory University Hospital determined she had blood clots in her brain and she was declared brain dead. Now she's 21 weeks pregnant. Removing breathing tubes and other life-saving devices would likely kill the fetus. Northside did not respond to a request for comment. Now here's what the AP article says about Georgia's abortion ban. Smith says the Emory doctors have told them that they're not allowed to stop or remove the devices that are keeping her breathing because the state law bans abortion after cardiac activity can be detected. Generally around 6 weeks into pregnancy, the law was adopted in 2019, but not enforced until Roe v. Wade was overturned by Dobbs v. Jackson. 12 states are enforcing bans, yada, yada, yada. Like the others, Georgia's ban includes an exception if the abortion is necessary to maintain the woman's life, but she's dead. Brain dead, so I guess that doesn't trigger. The exceptions have been in a hard at legal and political questions, blah, blah, blah. Smith's family, including her 5-year-old son, still visit her in the hospital. She's pregnant with my grandson. She may be blind. She might not be able to walk. He may not be able to survive once born. She's not said what the family, whether the family wants Smith removed from life support. Now, let us look at the law itself. Code of Georgia, blah, 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 blah. Restrictions on the performance of abortions, blah, blah, blah. Abortion means the act of using, prescribing, or administering any instrument, substance, device, or other means with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy with knowledge that termination with reasonable likelihood cause the death of an unborn child, provided, however, that any such act shall not be considered an abortion if the act is performed with the purpose to remove a dead unborn child caused by spontaneous abortion or removing an ectopic pregnancy. Detectable human heartbeat means embryonic or fatal cardiac activity or the steady and repetitive rhythmic contraction of the heart within the gestational sac. Medical emergency means a condition where abortion is necessary to prevent death of the pregnant woman or the substantial and irreversible physical impairment of a majorly body function. Medically futile means that under reasonable medical judgment, an unborn child has a profound and unremediable congenital chromosomal anomaly that is incompatible with sustaining life after birth. Spontaneous abortion is miscarriage. No abortion is authorized or shall be performed if an unborn child has been determined in accordance with whatever, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, if in conducting an abortion the child is capable of sustained life, then medical aid shall be rendered. No abortion is authorized or shall be performed in violation of subsection A of code, blah, blah, blah. So here's the thing. Let's go back to the top, shall we? Abortion means the act of using, prescribing, or administrating any instrument, substance, or device or other means with the purpose of terminating a pregnancy. You have to have the intent to terminate the pregnancy. Again, mens rea. There needs to be the intent to eliminate the pregnancy. And you have to use something purposefully, that you need to be acting on the fetus or on the uterus or on some, you have to take action. Inaction is not abortion. The idea that removing this dead woman from life-sustaining machines is in any way an abortion is full and total crap. Absolute grade A, 100% BS. Now, I'm not Catholic. I'm Jewish. As a Jewish person, I believe that abortion is required That's what Jewish law says, that abortion is required to save the life of a person. That's not relevant here. But Catholic Church doctrine. Let's talk about Catholic Church doctrine for a second. Granted, there's, South tends to be more evangelical Protestant types, but there are many very loud anti-abortion Catholic folks who will talk about the double effect. What is the double effect to Catholic beliefs? The double effect is if you are performing a procedure that is not intended to end the life of an embryo or fetus, but it still ends up doing it, as long as you're not targeting the embryo or fetus, it is not considered an abortion in the eyes of the Catholic Church. Now, we have a separation of church and state in this country. Why am I bringing this up? I'll get there in a second. So, for example, if you have an ectopic pregnancy, the Catholic Church would tell you that you can't take a pill to purposely cause that pregnancy to terminate, even though ectopic pregnancies 99.999% of the time are doomed. There might be one oddball case. So Catholic Church says no pill. Catholic Church says you can't do a salpingectomy, which is where you go into the woman, you slit the fallopian tube, and you take out the embryo. That is specifically targeting the embryo, and as such, an abortion. However, under the Catholic Church rules, if you're treating the ectopic pregnancy and you're trying to stop the pregnancy from rupturing and harming the patient, you're allowed to do a salpingectomy, which means you can take that piece of fallopian tube out and then reseal it. To the Catholic Church, that's not an abortion because you're not targeting the embryo. So the Catholic Church would argue that allowing somebody to die is not an abortion. Right? Allowing somebody to die is, and again, but according to Georgia state law, in order for it to be legally defined as an abortion, you have to take a specific action to do something. You have to use an instrument to abort. You have to use a drug to abort. Removing somebody from an instrument, keeping them alive, would then not be an abortion. So all these people who are arguing, this is why I say we need new media, because even the AP is getting this wrong. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but this is plain English. Abortion means the act of using, prescribing, or administering any instrument, substance, device, or other means with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy, with knowledge that the termination will cause the death of the unborn child. Again, removing somebody from that device is not using, prescribing, or administering an instrument, substance, or device with the means of the purpose to terminate a pregnancy. Allowing her to die peacefully would not be an abortion. So what? We're now going to say something where there's no DNIs? Now you have medical wills. Let's say you had a medical will. Do not resuscitate. Do not give life-saving treatment. They don't want to be put on the machines. You can now avoid advanced directives. You can ignore advanced directives now because of the fact that if there's a pregnancy there, then screw the person who wanted to have well, I mean, we already know that MAGA conservatives don't care about body autonomy, not just on abortion. They care less about a body autonomy and various other things as well. But the idea that this is an abortion, I believe that she should be allowed to die if the family determines that would be her wishes, or if that would have been her wishes, because she's now technically dead. She's brain dead. But even according to the text of the Georgia law, it is not, I repeat, not an abortion. I challenge any conservative out there to correct me on that. I mean, you can't. But bring it on. I want that debate. I mean, Easy East in the chat says, DNR is legally binding. Is it? Is it anymore? You had other paperwork in Florida, another southern state, way back when, before gay marriage was legal, before Obergefell v. Hodges. Back then, Lisa Pond was a lesbian woman in a hospital. And they denied her family the ability to see her in the hospital, despite the fact that her life partner, her wife, for all intents and purposes, even though it wasn't considered a marriage by the state of Florida, for all intents and purposes, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. They had a living will. They had living power of attorney. And they had all that documentation on them while on vacation. But Lisa Pond suffered injuries on that vacation, and they would not allow her partner to come in and have anything to do or say, because according to the nurses of the hospital, they don't believe in that sort of stuff there. So I don't trust these, conservatives when it comes to any sort of legal paperwork. They can't even read their own goddamn laws right. They can't even understand that. Furthermore, let's roll back to the other point that I was making earlier in this little rant, in this little conversation about abortion that I'm recording for, as a clip. This is what Republicans feel about women. Now, of course, I would say patience, because you can be non-binary and be pregnant. You can be a trans man and be pregnant. And I think it's very important, despite Anna Kasparian's young turf whiny stuff about that, I think you should make sure that you word your language in such a way, when you're discussing abortion, when you're discussing pregnancy, to refer to people as the patient instead of the woman, because of the chances that you might have a non-binary individual giving birth and or a trans man giving birth. But when it comes to quoting these a-holes, I will use their language, because I will quote the a-holes when they're being a-holes to show exactly how exactly a-holish they're being. And this, women out there, especially you conservative women out there, who had no problem voting for Trump, who thought to themselves, there's no way, I'll vote for Trump because there's no way Roe versus Wade would be overturned. No way, right? I said otherwise. I said it would go the way of the dodo, because Donald Trump had named 3 Supreme Court justices. I predicted that back in 2016, and people called me nuts. I was right. It shouldn't have taken this for y'all to realize how MAGA, how the Republican Party, how these folks, conservative folks, what they think about you. It shouldn't have taken this to let you know that they just view you as breeding vessels and as property. But if you needed any more evidence to help solidify that thought in your head, that according to the Republican Party, women are nothing more than breeding vessels, this case proves it. They can't let somebody just simply die with dignity. They have to keep them alive enough so that she could deliver, or that they could, I would say she could deliver. She's dead. So that they can remove eventually the fetus when it's in a condition to be able to survive outside the womb. Now, if something else had happened to her, she'd been shot, stabbed, murdered, fallen off a bridge, or whatever, the fetus, the embryo at the time would have been dead. The fact that we have this great technology that allows us to keep people on life support, even though it shouldn't be called life support at this point because she's not alive, she's brain dead. And the fact, again, that they're misusing their own legal definition of abortion to justify this bullshit. Because that's what it is. It's bullshit. But all y'all people out there who, had for some reason thought Trump was going to be better than Harris and Trump was going to be better than Clinton, all y'all people have caused this bullshit. Y'all people who thought that there was no problem voting for Trump because all these things were safe. Nope. Sorry, you're wrong. And now it has to happen to some poor nurse who has to be just drug along, let to lay there in her brain death just so they can deliver a child that might be healthy and might not be healthy. They think that there might be medical issues with the child. But make no mistake, the Republican Party views women like they're breeding vessels, and that's it. No more. If you continue to vote for the Republican Party as a woman, you're a fucking idiot. What do you think? Agree, disagree? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. And unless you support this horrible decision and think that women should be used in this manner, have a good day. Anyway. Atrocious. I voted for the emails lady and the prosecutor. Exactly. They want to control women's bodies to prevent people from transitioning. That is a correct statement. They do want to do that. Because they don't care about trans men, usually. They usually don't bring up trans men at all. It takes us bringing up trans men to ruin their terrible arguments. Because you can see pictures of trans men that, like, jacked dudes with beards and, you know, muscles, a six-pack, you know, would beat my ass any day of the week, twice on Sunday. But they were assigned or assumed female at birth. So therefore, under these stupid Republican MAGA rules that they want to pass, these laws that they want to pass, under them, those men would have to use the women's room. And then that would cause these people... We talked about this the other day, a few weeks ago, where there was a cisgender woman who was stopped and prevented from going to the... from going into a women's... Actually, the police came into the women's room to question whether or not she had the appropriate genitals to be in the damn room. And she's a cis woman. Wasn't even trans. Republicans are more obsessed with people's genitals than anybody else on the frickin' planet. There are porn stars with less concern over the genitals of other people than these MAGA idiots have. But yes, they want to prevent women from having control over their bodies, which includes trans women. And they also voted for a goddamn rapist. And yes, I said it is a rapist because the judge says that you could colloquially call what he was found civilly liable for as rape, even though it was officially sexual abuse. And what the Republicans say back then? They're like, oh, he wasn't charged with rape. He was vindicated that he didn't rape her, that they didn't find him civilly liable of rape, so therefore he was vindicated. What, vindicated? You mean it was the sexual abuse is okay for y'all? Why would you remain married to a MAGA person if you're a woman? I can't understand that either. So, ugh. Yeah, exactly. He was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend for 25 years. He's a rapist and a pedophile. Exactly, atrocious. Exactly. And the radio show host that I listen to in the morning sometimes when I don't thank you for the follow. I love when my kids communicate me via Twitch. It's your other kid. Thank you, Henny Ninja. I know your username. Where is the ibuprofen? I don't know where the ibuprofen is. I know where Tylenol is, but I don't know where the ibuprofen is. You're going to have to find it. I know there's Tylenol like in the kitchen somewhere, and I think your mommy has some Tylenol too by her. I don't know where the ibuprofen is. I'm sorry. See, I'm a 6'2", maybe scary looking guy, and I prefer to piss alone. Is that a George Thorogood song? Like, is that the second part of his? I piss alone after he drinks alone. Yeah, with nobody else. You know, when I drink alone, I prefer to be by myself. So then there's the second. I piss alone. Yeah, with nobody else. You know, when I piss alone, I prefer to be by myself. Anyway, the ibuprofen is in my house. The call is coming from inside the house. Oh no. how do we get to your house, Pam? Anyway, funny how semantics and hypocrisy go hand in hand, which is also funny because these Republican conservatives, whatever, they are anti-Semitic as well as being anti-Semitic. So, Jeff Curry, when I grew my hair out to donate, a guy started to say something to me about a men's room, and I was washing my hands. I turned around, and he left. That's great. I love just making the Republicans immediately regret their decisions. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, basketball rights disappearing. Tostic plasmosis is real, everyone. And I know somebody said in the chat earlier that ectopic pregnancies are typically futile. And yeah, I know. That's why I said 99.99999 or whatever. Because there's always one person who'll bring up the one example where it was technically an ectopic pregnancy, but it was like very much at the end. So therefore, the person took the risk and the fetus survived. The embryo was able to develop into a fetus. The fetus survived. There you go. So there's your one. So they'll use that one example to say no abortions, no exceptions, that even people with ectopic pregnancies can live, when the vast majority, the ridiculous majority, 99+% of ectopic pregnancies are going to fail, and you want to treat them before it becomes a larger problem. But hey, what do I know? I just, support the ability of people to make decisions for themselves and their own health care. But, that's just me. Apparently. What else? What was the other thing I was going to talk about? I had something else I did want to talk about on here before I open up the phone lines. There was the 2 executive orders or whatever. I was going to go look to see if President Trump actually plagiarized Biden's executive order that he rescinded, on his first day of his presidency. Because, Biden went ahead and said, oh, we're going to make it cheaper for Americans to get prescription drugs. And then Trump goes, no, you're not. We're going to rescind this executive order. And now he's announcing actions to put American patients first by lowering drug prices and stopping foreign free riding on American pharmaceutical and innovation, blah, blah, blah. But he's going to want us to have, most favored nation status for ourselves for the pricing of our drugs. But then he's going to tariff anything that comes in. And that's going to make the prices go back up again. Because he doesn't understand how frickin' tariffs work. Easy E Network. If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain. Anyway, I did do karaoke for my birthday on Saturday. So I've been in a bit of a singing mood. Jolie, as a woman, I can't explain in words how absolutely disgusting it feels about the constant talk and decisions that this has made on women's bodies, our bodies. It's crazy. I agree. And I should have no say over what you or any other woman or any other person for that matter does with their bodies. As long as your body is not doing something that I don't want your body doing to me. That's the only time I should have the ability to say what you do, to tell you what you can do with your body. You wanna smoke some weed? Do it. You wanna have an abortion? Fine. It's your call. I support your right to do it 100% of the time. I don't believe in putting in any exceptions to abortions, because nobody is getting an abortion after 21, 22 weeks, except for those people who are doing so because of a medical necessity. The people that get abortions at like 22 weeks and beyond are people who have done things like already picked out their bassinet and already have baby clothes and formula and already are all ready to go with their new child. That's what those people are going through when they get abortions in the quote third trimester. But then you have these Republicans who not only are making it so that you can't act on these life-threatening issues, they're making it so that these people have to either leave the state or, risk death, because you basically have to be on death's door. You have to be going into a toxic shock or whatever in order to be able to then say, oh, we can do the abortion now because you're about to die. You can't say you can't trust a doctor that says, you know what, if we allow this pregnancy to continue, the chance of this person dying is 80%. And the person goes, I don't want to take that risk. Yeetus the fetus. Nope, can't do that. Don't want to listen to doctors anymore. So, anyway, it's utterly mind-numbingly frustrating having to deal with these people. But the thing that I will do as a man, as a cisgender male, is that I will use the voice, my voice here, to amplify the voices of others who can get pregnant and whose rights are being threatened by these draconian anti-abortion laws. So you hop a westbound train to Albuquerque. I speak Taiwanese. I know how to read a typo. So we love you too, Jolie. And Jolie,
I like turtles.
Likes turtles too. I'd play the Aaron's air horn, but it's a bit loud. I probably have to, like, you know, put it down like here to play it. That's much better. Now I know what to do whenever I want to play the Aaron air horn. We're all human. People are people, so why should it be? You and I should get along so awfully. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Let's bring this up. And let's make this Leon's getting larger. Let's make the text larger as well. See, in severe warning now, things are glitching. What, tornado warning, whatever? Sepsis. Sepsis is the word I was looking for. Thank you, Easy E Network. I said toxic shock. I was meaning to say in sepsis, or as you say, septic shock. I meant to say sepsis, but my brain was just farting at that point. I could not think of the word. So, shout out to all the 30 viewers who have remained over on Twitch watching. All the sparklers who continued their raid on beyond the initial raid. Shout out to you. Appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for hanging around. Love to have you around more often. So, again, thank you. Thank you, Atrocious. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Henny Ninja. Wait, he wasn't part of the raid. That's my child. Yeah. Wait, what'd you say, Bicycle Mike? Hold on.
I picked the wrong week. Quit sniffing glue.
Oh, I played it double.
Looks like I picked the wrong week. Quit sniffing glue.
There you go. Tahila, thank you, Dan. I'm so sick of dudes telling us how many weeks are okay. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to die from your pregnancy at 21 weeks or 30 weeks or whatever, you should be able to decide whether or not you're going to take that risk. Bicycle Mike, are you shocked that I had that clip readily available?
Looks like I picked the wrong week. Quit sniffing glue.
Anyway, so let's see. My husband developed sepsis. It was scary as hell. He lost all control of his body and couldn't get him into the wheelchair without him sliding it out onto the floor. Fortunately, he did recover, but we never found out what caused it. It was in his right hand, and he was a lefty. Yeah, I mean, I mean, my wife didn't go into sepsis, but that was almost what was going on with her. Like, she rapidly declined from having to use a walker to get in from the previous hospital stay on the Tuesday to Thursday. Her not even be able to walk down the stairs, and I had to put her in a wheelchair. She didn't fall out of it, but again, they didn't know what the hell happened or what the hell was going on. It took like 4 visits to the hospital to actually figure out what the condition was, and they still don't know how she got it. I have a theory, but I'm not a doctor, even though one of her doctors said that my theory sounds logical. So, not at all. Great minds think alike. Exactly. Actually, I have all of them.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
There you go. So, bring back Roe v. Wade and be done. That's not even Roe v. Wade that only has to be brought back. We need to bring back Casey versus Planned Parenthood as well. Because we need to do better than Roe v. Wade, I think. We need to pass we should be passing I would love to see a constitutional amendment to enshrine abortion into the federal constitution. That being said, the Ninth Amendment should protect all non-enumerated rights, but conservatives don't like the Ninth Amendment. It's the redheaded stepchild of all of the amendments, and they don't like the fact that, because they'll make the stupid, even Alito, in his dumb argument in Dobbs v. Jackson, made the argument that abortion isn't listed in the Constitution, therefore it's not a protected right, skipping directly over the Ninth Amendment, and we went over that on the show. So my dad had to endure watching my mom carry a dead fetus for 4 months in the early 70s. He hates politicians and makes decisions about women's bodies. That is horrible. Like, why would you do that to anybody? Like, why would you make somebody carry a pregnancy for 4 additional months just so they could deliver a dead fetus? And some of these abortion laws are written in such a way that even doctors would question that. Thank you, Fred, for the happy birthday wishes and for the super chat. Appreciate you for that. It would result in sepsis and infertility. Exactly. Jolie, everyone here is amazing except Chad. I kid, Chad. I kid. Do you really kid, though? I know what you do like.
I like turtles.
Yes, there you go. Anyway. Well, let's switch back to the original thing because we're not talking abortion anymore. And we'll go back to this. Ugh. Actually, hold on. We're doing another recording of the bit, so I'm going to have at least one more thank you or like, subscribe, share, have a good day thing, just to let you know. Now, what has been shockingly amazing is not just the fact that the Supreme Court has ruled against Donald Trump more than I thought it would. Now, it has ruled with him an uncomfortable amount of times as well, but on the issue of the deportations, they have ruled against him time and time again. And normally, it's either 7-2 or 9-0. Because when the Supreme Court said that every individual has the right to due process, every individual has the right to file a writ of habeas corpus and has to be given a reasonable amount of time to do so, that was 9-0. Even the wackadoodles, Thomas and Alito, said that everybody gets due process. Everybody gets it. Of course, Donald Trump's fighting that, and he doesn't think that everybody should get due process. And of course, the MAGA folks are lining up and, goose stepping right behind them because obviously they're going to. But on Friday night, this wasn't necessarily a big enough of a ruling for me to go live on a show and do a special show on the Friday. But Friday night, we had this, a per curiam, which typically is unsigned, but as we've been seeing recently, the per curiams, even though they're unsigned, the dissenters still want to dissent. So we get to see who the 7 were who voted for this when we see the dissent of the people and the opinions thereof. President has invoked Alien Enemies Act to remove Venezuelan nationals who are members of Tren de Aragua, a designated foreign terrorist organization. See Presidential Proclamation 10903. Applicants are 2 detainees identified as members of TDA and putative class of similarly situated detainees in Northern District of Texas. All of the alleged TDA members in the putative class are currently being held in detention facilities. On April 17th, the district court denied the detainees' motion for a temporary restraining order against summary removal. The detainees allege that hours later, putative class members were served notices of AEA removal and told that they would be removed tonight or tomorrow. On April 18, the detainees moved to an emergency TRO, blah, blah, blah. We understand the government to assert the right to remove. A government doesn't have rights. Government has powers. People have rights. We understood the government to assert the power to remove the detainees as soon as midnight Central Time, April 19th. The government addressed the detainees' allegations on April 18th. Only at an evening hearing before District Court of District of Columbia, where the detainees had separately sought relief. The government guaranteed that no putative class members would be removed that day, but it further represented that, in its view, removal of these class members as soon as the next day would be consistent with its due process obligations and reserve the right to take such an action. Evidence now, the record suggests that government had in fact taken steps in the afternoon towards removing the detainees. At 12:52 Eastern Time, we ordered the government, in light of all these circumstances, to not remove any member of this class in order to preserve our jurisdiction to consider the application. The Fifth Circuit dismissed the detainees' appeal for a lack of jurisdiction and denied their motion for injunction on the ground that the detainees gave the district court only 42 minutes to act. We now construe the application as a petition for writ of certiorari from the decision of the Fifth Circuit, see Reply 15, we grant the petition as well as the application for injunction pending further proceedings, vacate the judgment of the Fifth Circuit, the most conservative activist circuit of all the appeal circuits. Fifth Circuit erred in dismissing the detainee's appeal for lack of jurisdiction. Appellate courts have jurisdiction to review interlocutory orders that have the practical effect of refusing an injunction. A district court's inaction in the face of extreme urgency and a high risk of serious, perhaps irreparable consequences may have the effect of refusing an injunction. Here, the district court's inaction, not for 42 minutes, but 14 hours and 28 minutes, had the practical effect of refusing an injunction to detainees facing an imminent threat of severe, irreparable harm. Accordingly, we vacate the judgment of the Court of Appeals. The government does not contest before the court that applicants' description of the notice afforded to AEA detainees in the Northern District of Texas, nor the asserted the government was poised to carry out removals immediately. The government has represented elsewhere that it is unable to provide for the return of an individual deported in error, although saying it's an error anymore is just ridiculous because they purposely did it. Just like it was just an error that I drove drunk into somebody and killed somebody, but no, you chose to drive drunk. We remand the case to the Fifth Circuit for that purpose. To be clear, we decide today only that detainees are entitled to more notice than was given on April 18th, and we grant temporary injunctive relief to preserve our jurisdiction. While the question of what notice is due is adjudicated, we did not on April 19th and do not now address the underlying merits of the parties' claims. The dissent disputes both the court's jurisdiction and availability of class-wide relief. We do not find its reasoning persuasive. In this case, the record before the court, although limited, indicated the removals of class members were likely imminent. The detainees attached for declarations, yada, yada, yada. So basically, they send it back to the Fifth Circuit while making sure that the injunctive relief was in place. The application for injunction pending further proceedings is granted. The motion for leave to file a supplemental appendix under seal is also granted. Additionally, applicants suggested this court treat the application as a petition for writ of certiorari. Doing so, the petition is granted. The judgment of the Fifth Circuit is vacated and the case is remanded to the Fifth Circuit. In resolving the detainee's appeal, the Fifth Circuit should address all normal preliminary injunction factors, including likelihood of success on the merits. Yada, yada, yada. Government may not remove the named plaintiffs or class members under other lawful authorities. It is so ordered. So I skipped a bunch of that just because I wanted to get to, well, this is Justice Kavanaugh concurring, so fine. Kavanaugh concurs. I guess he wanted to be special. Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas joins, in dissenting. I cannot join the decision of the court. First and foremost, we lack jurisdiction and therefore have no authority to issue any relief. You lack jurisdiction to not put a temporary injunction over a lower court's ruling that would be no injunction? How dumb are you? Well, we already know how dumb Alito is. We read live the decision of Dobbs v. Jackson and saw just how dumb Alito is. We also went and discussed the other cases because I predicted at the time when I was reading it, not knowing the answer, I said, this ruling is so dumb. It's just about as dumb as Salinas v. Texas. It's about as dumb as Hobby Lobby ruling. It's just about as dumb as Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire. Went and looked up all three cases. All three of those cases and the opinions in those cases were written by Justice Alito as well. Just to give a brief explanation of why those rulings were stupid. Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire basically requires somebody to be psychic in order to file discriminatory wage claims because they said that it had to be filed on the first time that the discriminatory wage was paid, not the first time it was determined that they were paying a discriminatory wage. The Burrell versus Hobby Lobby, that case basically said that a Hobby Lobby could say, we believe this thing happens and therefore we should not be required to cover oral contraceptives. But they weren't required to show that such a thing happens. They were just allowed to say, it's akin to me saying, the sky is purple, so I should get to do things. Well, the sky's not purple. But, so you should have to prove that these things happen before even bringing it to court. But Supreme Court didn't do that. Again, it's a dumb ruling. And Salinas v. Texas was the one that basically had somebody who was thought that he might have committed a crime. He might have, I don't know if it was murder or not, I forget that particular part, but they brought him in for questioning. They brought Salinas in for questioning. They didn't put him under arrest. They didn't say he was detained. They asked him questions. And they said, and then at some point they asked him a question that he didn't want to answer, and he just remained silent, as one is supposed to have the right to do under the Constitution. Your Fifth Amendment rights to remain silent, which is why when people are under arrest and are being detained for a crime, those people under the Miranda ruling are required to be read their rights because they're assumed to not be constitutional experts and as such have to be given their rights. So if we're assumed to not be constitutional experts when we're under arrest, why are we assumed to not be constitutional experts when we're not under arrest? So not only did the court use Salinas' silence against him in the court, the Supreme Court basically said that if you're not under arrest, if you're not detained and haven't been read your Miranda rights, you have to specifically invoke your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent in order to have that silence not used against you in a court of law. So in order to use your right to remain silent, you have to speak? That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. Let's continue with Alito's crap. Third, granting certiorari before any decision of the merits has been made is unwarranted. A jurisdiction is the power to declare law, and without jurisdiction, the court can refute it all. No. Jurisdiction is whether or not you have the ability to rule on something. Not just to declare the law, not just to make a law, but to say what the law means. In order for us to do anything in this matter, he says, we must assure ourselves that we have jurisdiction. You're the Supreme Court of the fucking United States. How do you not have jurisdiction over something that your lower appellate court has ruled on or decided to not rule on in this particular case by not providing temporary injunctive relief while the merits of the case are determined? The court's theory of jurisdiction, as I understand it, now, as Alito understands it, and is probably much different than what their actual theory is, because Alito is a dumb motherfucker. I don't understand how he was able to pass the bar. I don't understand how he passed law school. I don't understand how he was able to pass the LSATs. He's that dumb. How he did it, I don't know. The case was properly before the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, and two habeas petitioners took an appeal from a district court that refused to issue an injunction. Although the district court never actually issued such an order or said it would do so, the district court constructively denied injunctive relief by failing to act under the circumstances where prompt intervention was urgently needed. This theory rests on a mischaracterization of what happened in a district court. I do not dispute that a district court's failure to act expeditiously may, in some circumstances, have the practical effect of refusing an injunction and thus entitle a party to take an interlocutory appeal, but the principle does not apply here. District court had no good reason to think that either of them was in imminent danger of removal. What? What? I mean, this is the first time I'm reading this. The district court had no good reason to think that either of these people were in imminent danger of removal. You have a judge who issued an order to not deport them, but it wasn't in writing, so they shipped them off in planes off to El Salvador in violation of their rights. The rights that you, Alito, and the other 8 justices of the Supreme Court said were practically, you said that they were violated because you said that every single one of them needed to have due process rights, and none of them got due process rights, so this administration violated their constitutional rights in shipping them off, especially with Garcia, who was shipped off incorrectly. So of course, this court has every court has every reason to assume that these people were in imminent danger of removal because the Trump administration said that they have given them enough due process rights. This administration said specifically that they were going to act quickly. What, do we now have to wait till them to be deported and be like, oh, well, they shouldn't have done that? Stupid. See, the record at the time contained only sketchy evidence about any imminent threat to the members of the class of alien detainees. Sketchy evidence, like the actions of this administration? Dumbass. The court asserts that the district court failed to act for 14 hours and 28 minutes. That is misleading. Here's what actually happened. On the evening of April 17th, lawyers for the two made a phone call in which they demanded to talk to the judge immediately and have a judge issue the order. As the district court has since correctly noted, the judges are generally not permitted to consider such ex parte communications. So the judge issued an electronic order admonishing the attorneys and stating that to the extent that either party seeks emergency relief, it may file a motion to do so. If an emergency motion is filed, the opposing party shall have 24 hours to file a response. Thus, when attorneys for these two are filed the renewed motion for a TRO, they were fully aware the district court intended to give the government 24 hours to file a response, but in that motion, the attorneys did nothing about a plan to appeal if the district court elected to wait for that response. It was not until their 1248 emergency motion for an immediate status conference that the attorneys suddenly informed the court that they would file an appeal if the district court did not act within 42 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Whether or not the actions taken by the applicant's attorneys are thought to be justified under the circumstances, delivering such an ultimatum to the district court judge represented a very stark departure from what is usually regarded as acceptable practice. Faced with the applicant's extraordinary demand, the district court proceeded with an entirely reasonable matter. The court characterizes the district court's behavior during the time period as inaction, but it is my judgment that is unfair. Your judgment is under question, sir, simply because of the fact that your judgment, thank you, Leanna, for the 1999 super chat. I appreciate you. Sorry for not saying it earlier. The judge was working with utmost diligence to resolve the important and complicated issues as quickly as possible. The judge explained that he had not yet ruled because he could not shirk his responsibility to decide complicated issues of law without at least some opportunity to review and get thoughtful responses from the parties. But in that time, the administration could have just shipped them off because they've already done it. We should commend this careful approach, not criticize it. No. Careful approaches are fine when you can be careful. But when the administration is literally telling you that they are going to take an action because they feel they have the authority to do so, guess what? You believe them. It's the only time that you should believe the Trump administration is when they're going to say they're going to do racist bullshit. As I mentioned, the factual support provided, blah, blah, blah. Let's just scroll down a little bit because we're skipping a lot of the same thing over and over again. 4 declarations concerning those individuals. Only one said anything about when removal might happen. In the declaration, the lawyer swore that he spoke on the phone with an unidentified Venezuelan man who said that ICE had informed them that they will be deported either today or tomorrow to Venezuela. In other words, the most specific piece of evidence that record was double hearsay statement that cannot be traced back to any specific government official, except for the fact that the government said so in its court filings. Yeah, if somebody said the amount of money that these Alito and Thomas have gotten, the amount of support that these two people have gotten, should be enough to have them removed from the bench. They should both be impeached, but we know the conservatives in the Senate won't allow that. So, and the conservatives in the House won't actually start the process. So there you go. For these reasons, I disagree with the unanimous Court of Appeals panel. Or I agree with the unanimous Court of Appeals panel that the district court did not constructively deny an application. The panel stated there was no reason to doubt the diligence and ability of the district court to act appropriately. Even if the district court had denied the applicant's motion, there would be no ground for reversal because the applicants failed to satisfy the requirements for emergency injunctive relief. Of course, the 7 people in the court disagree with you that are not Justice Thomas. As my judgment, the applicants were not likely to prevail on either of those issues. It's doubtful that class relief may be attained in a habeas proceeding. We have never so held. It's highly questionable whether it's permitted. Although habeas proceedings are classified as civil, the federal rules of civil procedure apply only to the extent of the practice of proceedings previously conformed to the practice, blah, blah, blah. More legally is yada, yada, yada. We're not going to read the whole thing. We've basically heard enough. We basically heard enough to say that Justice Alito is a freaking idiot, has no business being on the bench, and, gets it wrong all the live long day. So what do you think? Agree, disagree with me? Do you think the Alito and Thomas are two great jurists who do nothing wrong? Or are you going to, side with logic and facts and reason that these two are frickin' morons? Leave your comments below, like, subscribe, share, and of course, unless you agree with Alito and Thomas or are a Nazi or both, have a good day. Anyway, so there's that. Let's see. Talking about music, like the song Faithfully from Journey. Whoa, 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 whoa. Just heard Qatar did not give the 747 to the Orange Felon. He sent people to ask them for it. Bloody cheap freeloader. It was not a gift. I have the planes. It'll be the best plane. No one has a better plane. I wouldn't be shocked to find out that was correct either. Kidnapping is not good. Michael, exactly. Kidnapping is not good at all. Alito and Thomas have received, yeah, short-term retention of facts and information. Yes, Evie's aunt. Exactly. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let's do this. Let's do this. And then let's do this. If you would like to call in to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from Life That's Right, the phone number is 562-LIBDAN1. That is 562-542-3261. I should have found a way to put 86 in there, but I didn't know. But anyway, if you want to call in, you want to give your comments, your thoughts on any of the things we've discussed today, or if you want to bring up something new, I'd love to have a conservative call in and debate me on this crap. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But other than that, Big Hook, you're more than welcome to call in. Anybody else is more than welcome to call in too. Say hey, wish me a happy birthday. Big Hook even is giving people a chance to act, because we all know Big Hook wants to call in, and of course I want Big Hook to call in, because Big Hook calls are great calls. Nobody has better calls. Nobody calls Liberal Dan Radio better than Big Hook. I would say it is. I would play the "It Is What It Is" one, but I have the volume down so you don't have to hear the phone ringing. See, Nick Rich, 10:30 Eastern. Gotta fly. Have a great night. See y'all later. Have a good one, Nick Rich. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. Do want to quickly give a brief shout out to everybody who has supported the show today so far. Triva for becoming a new Liberal Danimal, Bicycle Mike with a super sticker, Big Hook, Molly O, Fred, and Leanna, all for giving super chats for my birthday. Appreciate y'all for all of that. I still have. I didn't share the link to the book today. Did I not share that at all in the chat? I thought I did maybe Wednesday. I don't know. I did share it on Blue Sky and on YouTube. I posted it on YouTube. So just if you don't know, I'm an aspiring author too. Writing some sci-fi stuff. I had an 800-word story that is going to be published in an anthology of like kind of fan fiction type stuff that discuss Deep Space Nine. In this particular case, I previously had one that was about Star Trek: The Next Generation. I thought I had a really fun time writing that one. I also had a really fun time writing this one as well. See, I'm conservative and keep ringing 6969. I'm pretty sure she's avoiding my numbers. What about 8675309? Is 8675309 also a death threat? 8675309. See, DB Golding. Hey, DB Golding, good to see you over there on Twitch. Pam Matthews, I love John Scalzi's work. He's a great progressive sci-fi author, and he's active on social media. Great guy, lives in Ohio. Yeah. I've quoted Scalzi. Scalzi has a great, or I've paraphrased him at least. He has a great explanation of privilege and describing privilege via video game analogies. And I've taken that video game analogy from Scalzi and have expanded it some to make it even more useful or whatever in my mind. I mean, he has a long blog post about it, but I kind of trim down his argument, then I add stuff of my own, sprinkle in some of my own stuff to make it, kind of a joint discussion of what's going on and what privilege means. But yes, whenever I bring it up, I do bring up Scalzi as well, because he is one of the good ones, one of the good thinkers out there, not just on sci-fi, but also when it comes to people's rights. Anyway, Josh, I'm gauging my sobriety. What you might be, you don't want to do a drunk dial? You don't want to call drunk. Let's see, first book I bought was his nonfiction, Your Hate Mail Will Be Graded. Nice. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, it might be behind my desk at this point. I know I have red shirts somewhere on my desk. I just need to find it. And I'd probably have to get down on the floor and actually look behind the desk, because a bunch of people pushed some stuff out. So, Will Wheaton reads his Wadables. Wheaton! Yes, Jeff's son is the singer, the head of Hang Your Hate. Check out the Hang Your Hate page. Go subscribe to their channel too. Friends of the show, right? So, Josh is going to be brave. Hey, look at that. So, let me get the area, or I can just bring this up a little bit more so I can see. I don't know why that's not, or maybe it's not scrolling because I don't have a ringy dingy yet. You're welcome, Jeff. Anytime. Let's see. I think I missed anything else I missed in the chat while we're waiting for Josh to dial 562-542-3261. Beat quote Rob Schneider from not Happy Gilmore, from Waterboy. You can do it! There we go. There he is. Let's do the answer. We have to hit 1. And here comes Josh. Make sure to turn down whatever you're listening to.
Do I need to adjust something here?
Yeah, I think you're good for right now. I heard my voice for a quick second, but we're good now. So how's it going, Josh? Thank you for calling.
Oh, it's going. It's going. You got me up in my feelings earlier when you were talking about the women's issues and whatnot. I went through a lot of that with my wife years ago, right?
Right.
Well, and we had a second kid on the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And went in for a checkup, and it's like there's no heartbeat. No, and a lot of these procedures, the ablation and this and that. Then she had a whole bunch of other problems. I mean, that lasted a few years. It was endometriosis and adenomyosis, and oh my God! At the time we had a young daughter, and Jesus, man, I don't like to think about that, and I really feel for you, with the trouble that you're going through with your wife. I mean, it's like, oh my God, and you're trying to raise kids, and the whole thought of like potentially like you could drop your wife off at the hospital and suddenly be a single father like that. It's a terrifying thought and almost brings tears to my eyes. I feel for that, and
I mean, she's doing much better now, but yeah, definitely, it's a scary proposition that that you have to do. And the sad thing is, though, is that I've heard horror stories that a lot of times when women face who are married, who face like life-threatening situations where you don't know whether or not there are men who just abandon their wives and just get a divorce and be like, I don't want to deal with it anymore, and they just say wipe their hands clean of it and go move on to somebody else. I'm like, that person never loved their wife to begin with. Like, I will absolutely say that 100% of the time, that person never really loved their wife. That's the type of person that views their spouses as somebody who is property and not somebody who is a life partner with them. So, and it's abhorrent that would ever happen.
No, well,
go ahead.
The whole thing, the whole other thing for me that was wild was we had the second one there that was sort of on the way,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many, second trimester, whatever. I forget how deep we were into the whole level of months, but we talked to a bunch of other people that have had multiple kids, and it's like, oh yeah, like every second child had to be, oh yeah, I've had 3 ablations. It's like, holy shit, like, don't hear about that. It's not talked about. It's so like hush hush, and especially with, I'm gonna go religious here for a second, but especially with like the whole Catholic religion, like they lots of kids, but you talk to a Catholic chick honestly, how many of them took and how many of them didn't? How many times did you have to go to the doctor? And then it's ridiculous that our government is trying to fucking, put regulations on this one way or the other. I mean, thank God I live in fucking New York. I've got a daughter. She just turned 8. It's like, yeah. But it's a rough.
Yeah, it is right. First of all, Leanna, thank you very much for the generous. I think now is the biggest super chat I've ever gotten on the show. Thank you so much, Leanna. Appreciate you so much. To go back to the the other thing. Yeah, my wife. We had our first child, and then
Right.
my wife started getting on some prescriptions to deal with her psoriasis. It was like Humira or Enbrel. I think Humira first, then Enbrel, and we started trying to have the second child. And she had a miscarriage, and then we tried again. And when we were trying, we went to the gynecologist beforehand, and was like, "Are we sure that the Enbrel has not caused her, because it's a biologic? Are we sure that the Enbrel did not cause this previous miscarriage? Do we need to get off?" She's like, "No, you should be fine." Okay, so we tried again, and she got pregnant, and then there was no heartbeat, just as you said, and she had to, the pregnancy terminated, and she had to again get a dilation and extraction, which, some laws that these idiot Republicans are writing would ban those too, even when there's no heartbeat.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's very frustrating.
It's very frustrating. But but here's the other frustrating thing, though, is the fact that we then went in, and the head of the I'm hearing an echo again now, so I don't know what that's through, but the whatchamacallit, went to the head OBGYN individual at the head of the department, who was responsible for mixing up people's embryos during Hurricane Katrina. I don't know how he still had a job. But he said, he kept on repeating, "I think it's the Enbrel. I think it's the Enbrel. I think it's the Enbrel." Repeated several times. And then when her regular OBGYN called us after we got home, she was like, "I didn't know you were on Enbrel." I'm like, "The fuck you didn't? We told you. I was there at almost every single, if not every single appointment that we had with you." And when the nurses would ask what drugs you're on, the first one we would mention is the Enbrel. Why? Because the Enbrel was the one that was the most biggest pain in the ass to get. Because every year my wife had to file for a prior authorization for use and a prior authorization for dose, because her psoriasis covered 70% of her body. And, so she had to get a higher dose than most people. So when this doctor said, "I didn't know you were on Enbrel," we told you repeatedly that she was on Enbrel, and you said nothing. You said it was okay. And then when we tried to we made a complaint to the hospital administration basically came back saying, "While Dr. Robichaux might have said that he believed that it was the Enbrel, it is our determination that it was not the Enbrel that caused the pregnancy to be terminated, and as such, we don't take any responsibility." And then comes the stupidity of the laws in Louisiana that require you to get a legal medical review panel of 3 doctors to look at your case and see what the hell happened, and then determine whether or not they think that the doctor was at fault. Now, you don't need them to rule in your favor for you to bring a lawsuit. You can still get a jury trial if you want, but a lawyer is much less likely to take the case if the medical review board doesn't rule in your favor. And because the medical review board said, "We see no problem with what they did," we were screwed, because the laws of Louisiana protect bad doctors, especially when, and it's weird because, you'd think Louisiana's a pro-life state. So I think Louisiana would want to make sure that their doctors don't do things that might cause things, like a miscarriage. But here we are. But fortunately, we went to a new OBGYN. He got her off the Enbrel. And then once her system was cleared, we happened to go to Disney World. And the day that we saw Darth Maul is the day that he was conceived. So we now have our second child as well. He was now 12 years old, and we joke around that Darth Maul is his father. So if you ask him who's your dad, he'll say me. But if you ask him who his father is, he'll say Darth Maul. Even when he was 2 or 3 years old, we're sitting there waiting for some Star Wars thing to start, and there were video games in this little waiting area, and you could play Disney Infinity, and one of the characters there was Darth Maul, and he goes up to the screen and he's like, Daddy, look, it's my father." I'm like, "Oh, Jesus." So yeah, it's an amusing story at the end of it, because of Darth Maul being his father or whatever. But it was a very frustrating ordeal to have to deal with. Like there's a whole medical system that we avoid at all possible, if at all possible, because that hospital system, i.e. the Ochsner Hospital system here in New Orleans, is the one that basically said that protected their horrible doctors. So
I was blown away, Dan, that my wife, with all of the shit that they did, and as many fucking, tests and scans and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, had endometriosis and endometriosis, and they took out her hysterectomy, the what is it, cervix, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, they took out
the
uterus for the hysterectomy. Yeah, so
uterus.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, and she still had chronic pain, all of this and that. And it turned out that she had a gallstone the size of a fucking olive.
My wife dealt with that too before we got married. My wife and your wife should get together and just trade horror stories. They removed her gallbladder, and she's all better now.
Yeah. She's all better now. She's been better for a couple of years now. But, holy shit, like that was like a 3-year process, to get through. And, how do you miss that? Wouldn't you see that? I don't know. Our healthcare system is fucked up, and I've been saying for years now that the healthcare and education should be considered part of fucking national security. I'm sorry, I'm swearing.
No, I fucking swear all the time, especially today. So we're good. I think I've sworn more on the podcast in the past since November than I have in other times, but it's fine. We're good. It used to be a bigger deal when I was on Blog Talk Radio, because Blog Talk Radio had some rules about profanity or whatever, but since Blog Talk Radio is the way the dodo, and if anyone wants to say fuck it.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Dean, for the $2 super sticker. Thank you. Anyway, I actually had no idea.
I'd fill in for... go ahead.
I had no idea what adenomyosis was, so I looked it up, and yeah, it's for all the listeners or watchers or whatever, a condition where tissue that normally lines the uterus, the endometrium, grows into the muscle wall of the uterus, the myometrium.
Yeah.
This can cause painful and heavy periods, abdominal bloating, and enlarged uterus. While the exact cause is unknown, it is believed to be related to the way the uterus develops in the womb and may trigger by factors like inflammation or injury. So that's what adenomyosis is. So now you know.
And then there's there's endometriosis and adenomyosis where we're going on there. That was so that was presumed to be the problem, but somehow they did not notice
right.
the olive-sized gallstone.
Yeah. While you're in there, do this. We forgot.
I'm sorry. Healthcare and education should be considered like a vital part of our national security and stability and all of that. And it's baffling to me why it isn't. And
well, it clearly isn't now, because of the fact that we have an idiot who says that you shouldn't listen to him on health issues in charge of the Department of Health. The idiot who goes to swim in septic, shit-filled water in a creek that has a sign that clearly says, "Don't swim here." And then he has his grandchildren swimming right along with him. I guess he wanted a family of brainworms instead of just his own. Maybe his brainworm was lonely, wanted other brainworms to hang out with.
One look at his face, and I'm definitely determined that I'll never eat teriyaki turkey jerky again.
That's funny. Anyway, so thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. You call back anytime. It was a good call. Appreciate you. Anything else you want to say before we move on?
Some time. I was trying to fill some time for Big Hook here. Hopefully I wasn't too toasted.
No, you're good. We're good. Thank you so much for calling. Appreciate it again. And always, you have a great night.
Yeah. You too. Cheers, Dan. Cheers, friends.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yep.
All right, there we go. If you want to call in, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261 is the number to call in. Thank you, Marie, for the 5 gifted Liberal Dan Radio memberships. Got Sue from the Midas Network got in, Marsha Jones, Gen X George, and there we go. There is Big Hook. Big Hook be calling in. I see. I recognize your number. I know your area code. I know your number. So I got it down pat at this point. So I know it's you. So how are you today?
The only thing
wait.
you're missing is my PIN number at this point for my bank card. That's about it. So that's how close we are related at this point. Yeah,
To the other person calling in though, just wait till Big Hook hangs up, and then we'll get this. You can call back in once Big Hook is done, because unfortunately I can't take multiple calls at the same time, and I can't put people on. I don't think I can have a hold or have both people on hold. So I don't know, or I don't know if I can hold whatever. Anyway, I haven't quite figured that part out yet. I'd love to be able to have multiple people with the same phone number. I think I'd have to have 2 phone numbers for that, which is possible. You just need multiple Google accounts and multiple phones. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys are spiraling downhill. It's incredible how bad things are getting there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel for Joe Biden and everything else, but like Trump is going after the Supreme Court justices. He's like about the only thing he hasn't done at this point is dox the other ones that have said no to his plans of deporting people like crazy. The other question I have is what do you guys do about the law enforcement if they're going to follow his orders as well? They're no longer honoring their oath to the Constitution as well as to rule of law, due process. Something is badly askew if this is going to continue. I mean,
it's frightening. It's absolutely frightening. Like, what I've always said for a long time now, ever since Trump's first administration, ever since you had that issue over in Egypt, I'm like, I hope the U.S. military is paying attention, because you may have to do something similar here if Donald Trump usurps too much authority. And who knows? Because who knows how many people in the military are going to be loyalists to him instead of the Constitution. How many people in federal law enforcement are going to be loyal to him instead of the Constitution? Donald Trump wants people to basically sign loyalty pledges to him instead of just taking an oath to the Constitution, because they don't care about the Constitution. They don't give a crap about it. But I worried from the get-go that what happens when Donald Trump chooses to not follow a judicial order. What can you do? I mean, Pam Bondi said it herself. I mean, despite the fact that she said
no one is above the law in this country.
Besides the fact that she said that, there's the simple fact that she said that she would not allow the U.S. Marshals, who are under her purview, to come arrest people who courts say are under contempt. So if we've basically had a history in this country, a tradition in this country to basically accept the fact that we have 3 co-equal branches of government, like when Joe Biden felt that he wanted to not spend money on the wall, he decided to try and not spend money on the wall. And when a court came in and said, sorry, those funds were appropriated, you have to spend the money, Biden was like, okay, I'm going to follow this order because the judge said so. And I guess he didn't feel strongly enough to appeal that ruling and bring it up to SCOTUS. But with Trump, what then happens at that point? He's either going to listen to it, to use it as political rhetoric to get more people behind his side to say, oh, these courts are against me, blah, 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 these courts are against me. Or he'll just flat out just ignore it and then call their bluff and say, what are you going to do if I don't follow it? At that point, he becomes King Trump for real, because if he doesn't feel like he needs to follow the rulings of the Supreme Court, then he could break any law he wants to, and there's nothing that anybody, at least on the Supreme Court, can do about it, because the Attorney General's just gonna walk goose stepping behind him. So,
well, that's just it. She's as complicit and as easily bought as he is. That's the other thing. I mean, he got her on the cheap. I mean,
yeah,
she was getting 115 grand a month from fucking Qatar.
Yeah.
And he got off with $25,000 donation to her campaign election fund. I mean, she's talk about how easily bought, unless he promised her something more, which might have been the AG position all along.
Maybe.
I don't know. I mean,
maybe she is the Qatar hero. Who knows?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. You look at the Scandinavian governments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how they structure their system, and it is, okay, what does the government have to do? Okay, it has to serve the people. It has to serve their needs. It has to fund itself as well as tax them. So under their system, they get housing. They get medical care. They get the best education that money can buy. They get equal education because there are no private schools. They fund it with the natural resources that are part of their nation's, territory, whether it be through oil and gas reserves or whatnot. And I mean, you look at how they went and they invested. They thought, oh, okay, well, we realize that the oil can't last forever, so what can we do? Oh, gee, we got lots of wind. Let's put wind turbines out there and make ourselves, semi-self-sufficient, so that way we don't have to rely on that. And
but conservatives are just, they hate wind turbines because they supposedly care about the fish and the whales now and the birds. Like, wind turbines not only cause cancer, allegedly, according to Donald Trump, but they also kill birds and kill whales. And since when have you heard a conservative worry about dead birds and dead whales? Well, they'll do it, and to try and make, liberals look like they're hypocritical over the whole environment thing. It's just like the same thing with, they bring up things that are about Muslims in this country, and us supporting, having Muslims, having equal rights like the rest of us do. And they'll be like, but these Muslims want to put in Sharia law, and these Muslims want to do this, and that's harmful to women. I thought liberals cared about women. I'm like, don't fucking lecture me about caring about women when you don't give a crap about women's rights, women's lives, etc., because you pass these draconian abortion laws. You have Republicans who think women should be able to vote. Even Ann Coulter said that. Every time they say, what about the women? It's like, yeah, what about the women? Stop being such shits about women's rights, and maybe I'll listen to you about, what about the women? But instead of that, no. I mean, do I think that women are treated horribly in countries that are run by despotic religious types who are ultra conservatives? Yes, and that's not just true for Muslim countries. That's true for us too. So,
yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, the hypocrisy, the semantics, the whataboutisms, the deflection, the Trump and his strategy, which is break it, then blame somebody else for having broke it, then drag your ass and say that you're going to fix it, and then when your term is over, you hand that responsibility back over to the Democrats. Mm-hmm. And, that's it's been the cycle of the country for the longest times. The Republicans fuck it up, and the Democrats have to fix it, and that's a testament to the stupidity of conservatives, because they keep watching the same thing happening over and over again, and they still vote in these conservatives who say, I'm going to do the same thing that the last guy did, and it's going to work this time. I'm telling you, it's got to work. It's got to work. I'm telling you. I mean, like,
my best
insane.
explanation and an analogy to that is just Lucy and the football. They believe that they're going to eventually get to kick the football, and they never do. They're just that gullible. And the thing is like, you know, yeah, you'll have the Republicans screw it up, and the Democrats will fix it or try and fix it. But then maybe because the Republicans screwed it up so much, the Democrats can't fix all of the issues. So then Republicans will be like, well, look at all these issues that remain. They couldn't do anything about it. We'll do it. And then they say, okay, we'll vote for you. And then they screw it up again, purposefully.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a screw up if they screw us over. I don't know if it's a screw up because there's purposeful actions to this madness that they bring upon us.
Well, we have it's sort of funny. We have this guy. His name is Todd Maffin, who does a YouTube video, and he was talking about the conservatives in Alberta, and he was saying, "Oh, it's a Kaiser Sose, where you fake that somebody else really evil and devious is out there doing all this shit. Meanwhile, you're the one that's actually doing the shit, and you're standing there in front of them lying your ass off." And so anyway, she basically is the premier of Alberta, and she keeps going, oh, we should, separate from Canada and this, bullshit. And the thing is that it's all part of the distraction, because they've cut the social services funding, the health funding, or better yet, what they did was they took like $90 million of healthcare funding, and guess what they did? They gave it to private clinics that do surgeries instead of the actual general fund, which is for, the healthcare system that's already there. So it went to money that went to private doctors, that sort of thing. And, it's all there to see. They don't have any answers for it, and they do the same thing. They do the deflect. They do the whataboutism. They do the distractions. They say, oh, sovereignty. And it's like, no, it's not sovereignty, because all that land in Alberta is treaty land from the indigenous people there. Mm-hmm. And so it's all bullshit. They can't do anything. And if it ever goes to the Supreme Court of Canada, they're going to tell them the same thing. Fuck off. You've been lying to people, and it doesn't work that way. We had a similar issue here with the BC teachers. They had a contract, and the government, the conservative government, it's funny here in BC, I think it's totally screwed up. Because it turns out they call themselves the Liberal Party here in BC, but they're actually conservatives. And then it's the other way around. It's backwards. I don't understand why it is that way, but that's how it is. But anyway, they went and
well, I mean, to a lot of the world, a lot of the world's our liberals here are like center right. So I mean, a lot of people look at our liberals be like center right. So is there another? But do wait? Are you saying the liberals in British
Columbia are actually conservatives?
The liberals call it the people who are labeled liberals are conservatives. But what do the people who are on the left call themselves?
Well, we call ourselves. I mean, that's the funny thing. I think we consider ourselves progressives,
right?
More so than anything, but. See, here in BC, what we have is a minority government, which is combined. So it's the NDP plus the Conservative Party. So they basically have a working agreement where they both basically share the power and the responsibility and run policy through it. But back to my story, which was basically the teachers had a contract that they had signed in goodwill and was enforceable. Right. And these guys dragged it through. And it went through the provincial courts, then it went to the provincial Supreme Court. And every time they got told the same thing. The teachers are right. You have to reinstate their contract. You have to give them what they demanded under the contract. It's a legal contract. You can't walk away from it. And then they said, oh, fuck the provincial Supreme Court doesn't mean anything. And then they took it to the Supreme Court of Canada. And guess what happened? 45 minutes it took them to look at it, and they went, you guys are full of shit, and the teachers are right. And they go, oh, well, we didn't know. Oh, yes, we will automatically reinstate these conditions and whatnot and live up to the contract now all of a sudden. And it's like, because that's the whole thing. They push it to the absolute limit. And, it's how they operate. They don't operate in good faith. It's all bull. And then,
your voice
what
really
ends up
weird right
happening,
now.
Eventually you get replaced.
Right. Your voice went super weird right. It was like you're on delay, but I don't have delay on this. So anyway.
Okay. Well. Anyway, like I said, it's always been a problem with me that people say one thing, do another. They try to pull stuff, and then they think that they're sneaky, and then they think, oh, you know what? It's too much trouble for the other person to speak up and say and do anything about it. And that's what they're betting on is that apathy will win over their cruelty, that people will just say, fuck it. You know what? It's never going to fucking change. It's just the way it is, that kind of crap. And, it's bad. Mm-hmm. It really is bad. My daughter almost came not to be as well. Mm-hmm. My ex-wife almost gave birth prematurely, and at that point in time, we got to the hospital, and I think at that point she was 24 weeks along, and they said, we want to prepare you. This pregnancy may fail, and that the baby's lung development was not sufficient enough to have an emergency C-section or anything. And they said, we're going to cross our fingers and we're going to put your wife on steroids, and hopefully that'll speed up the lung development of the child, increasing the chances of survivability and whatnot, And, she spent basically, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks in the hospital under bed rest, under all this stuff, and undergoing the steroids and whatnot. And then she got released, and we ended up carrying out the pregnancy right up until her birthday, which was December 26th. So, so it all right, sorry, not 26th. What am I talking about? 23rd. We took her home on the 26th. I'm getting old and senile.
Look, don't tell me I'm getting old. I feel, again, but between my knees and my age, I'm just like, ugh. And then, of course, again, what my mom said earlier the other day was like, I have a son who's almost 50, and I'm just like, ugh. Just deflating.
Yes, it's like the old joke goes, insanity is hereditary. You get it from your kids.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. My mom will be like, you're so gray. And I'll usually joke around. And my old joke used to be, it's because I'm married. But then I switched it on to, it's because we have kids. So. Yes.
But at any rate, like what I'm saying here is that it's not an unknown. And the conservatives with their bullshit about, abortion isn't healthcare, it's killing, it's like, it's part of life. Some pregnancies are going to work out, some are going to fail, some are going to be unwanted, and, do you think an unwanted child is going to be a well cared for child or whatnot? And the minute you say, they go, well, you should put the child up for adoption. You go, how many kids have you adopted? They go,
right.
None.
They don't want to either.
And it's like, so, like, it's like, you look at them and you go, fuck off.
Yep.
It's not your life. It's their life. They get to choose what to do with it. and this bullshit of, oh, close your legs and live an unhappy life and be, it's just, it's stupidity of the highest level. And this is what angers
and it's
me
also
so much
hypocrisy,
about
because
it.
I guarantee you most of those politicians who are conservatives have paid for at least one. I've never paid for one.
If not two.
Yeah, if not
If
two.
not two.
I'm sure Trump has paid for several. I mean, because for what we heard from Stormy Daniels, right, that he likes to not wear a raincoat, so to speak. Yeah. I wouldn't.
Yeah, but
I would. If I was a sex worker, and I wouldn't let that. I wouldn't let that orange whatever anywhere near me.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing, though. I really worry about you guys. I really do, because you guys are going down the road of no return. And, the question is can you cut this off before it gets to the point where there's no return back to, some semblance of democracy, as well as sanity, as well as, I mean, you're losing everything already. You're cutting all the funding for health care, which means that many hospitals are going to close. And then you don't fix the loopholes in the insurance scams that are currently going around. So, I mean, and that's the thing. The hospitals, the insurance companies know that if they don't pay out, the hospitals end up closing. And that means that, it not only do they keep the money that they already have, but then they kill the system that they're supposed to provide for, which is, hypocrisy of the highest order, as well as insane. It's like saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to make an item and I'm not going to pay my workers anything. And guess what? I have no customers for the item that I'm creating. And it's like, like even Henry Ford was smart enough to realize that if he didn't make an automobile that was affordable to the local person out there on an average salary, he wasn't going to sell any fucking cars. And, it's the same thing with the health care. It's a human right, but you're selling it as a service for the privileged who have more money than God. And, it's just gotten completely out of hand. The rest of the world is looking at you guys and saying, you guys are fucking, out of your mind. You gouge people, you treat them like shit. You convinced a whole whack of them that somehow their life is going to get better if you take things away from them. And it's like, how on earth does that work? You take everything away from them and their life is going to get better?
Right.
Like,
doesn't make any sense.
And it's funny because I was in the grocery store yesterday, and as I was checking out, there was a guy ahead of me, and I noticed that he had a whole whack of American bills in his wallet, and then he paid for it with a little small amount of Canadian cash. And I said, so are you from the States? He said, yeah, I go back and forth. And I said, so do the border guards hassle you? And the first words out of his mouth were, you know what, that's all made up shit. Jesus. It doesn't happen. He says it's a lot of people making lots of noise about something, about nothing. And I said to him, I said, well, you know what? People generally don't make noise unless something is happening.
Right.
And I said...
Was the guy white?
Yes, the guy was white. And he sort of looked at me and he chuckled. And then he thought about it and was like, yeah. And I said, I have dual citizenship. And I said, you couldn't pay me enough to go down there right now.
Right.
And he said, why? And I said, because I could go down there and a van could pull up with a bunch of guys in masks and with guns and could pick me up off the street and throw me in a detention center for 2 months without legal recourse.
Yep.
And then the person that was at the end of the counter who was bagging their bags said, yeah, you're right. Canada is the land of the free, not like your place. And it was like, you know, and he looked at me and it was like, I think I embarrassed the crap out of him, but you know what?
Good.
You
they
know,
need to know more embarrassment. They need to know more shame.
And this was the thing, because if you think about it, okay, you are a single traveler. So what kind of reaction, what kind of a thing is it going to happen? It may be, oh, you run into the one or two border guards that don't give, don't make trouble, but it's all the other ones that cause it. So, I mean, once again, you're repeating anecdotal with no evidence things, and
well, that's one of the things. They don't
said,
like evidence. I was listening to another conservative talk show host today because I guess I'm a masochist. And he was talking about how Donald Trump's trying to do what's best for the American people. I'm like, give me details. Prove the argument. Prove your argument. I mean, I know he can't, but prove your argument. But that's all they believe in. Just if they say something enough, they believe enough people will believe it. And unfortunately, that's the case. Either enough people believe it or enough people don't want to rock the boat when it comes to it. So because they fear, getting on Trump's bad side or whatever. But, Donald Trump
but
did
you
say
know
he
what?
loved the poorly
Here's the
educated,
thing. Here's the thing that I have, which is, okay, tell me how an immigrant has harmed your life. Tell me in what way that an immigrant has not made your life better.
What's their response to that? What is their guaranteed at this point response to it? An immigrant.
Oh, but they crossed the border. They crossed the border illegally.
No,
illegals.
it's not even that. They'll bring up Laken Riley. They'll say Laken Riley was murdered by somebody who was here.
The one case that they can that they always point to, and then they think that's 1 equals 1 million. And it's like, so it has to be happening 1 million times more than that. And it's like,
right.
Where? Who do you know that's experienced the same thing?
And of course, if they wanted to deport the guy that was found guilty of murdering Laken Riley, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Good riddance.
Yeah.
I don't care. Whatever. That's fine. I would have no problem with that particular deportation. But because that person got due process. But they don't. The idea that there's somebody who is a former law enforcement officer who is running in the Republican primary for the Louisiana Senate against Bill Cassidy. This person was on the radio the other day and basically just confirming or repeating the bullshit line that constitutional rights are only for U.S. citizens, and that the people who are here breaking our laws supposedly don't get due process. And I'm like, those are the people who get due process, the criminals. If you're alleged of the crime, that's when you get due process. And then because the idiots are like, well, what about Laken Riley's due process? Was she charged with a crime? No, then the due process is irrelevant to Laken Riley and herself. No, and her killer did get due process, and he got found guilty of murder. So,
yeah, like I said, it's just it's like a madness. I would probably say it's syphilis. Because that's what it is. Like, they've lost their inhibitions. Cruelty is is their idea of how the world operates, and it's insanity. Because they don't know anything else. They go, "Oh, you're a socialist," and it's like, what? I want good things for everybody. And that the rich should pay more in taxes so that way everybody is provided the basics for living? That's awful. Explain that one to me. It's they have a brain fart and then their head explodes and then they walk away. It's just I don't know what to say. Because that seems to be what America is becoming, and it's not.
But then again, these people think Joe Biden was a socialist, and when he was president, and Joe Biden was nowhere near a socialist. But again, they're so far to the right that everything to to the left of, I guess, Liz Cheney now is considered a socialist.
Yeah, but I mean, but here's the thing. Like, Joe Biden was one of the ones that was like, oh, yeah, we have to get these criminals off the street, these people who blue, 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 you know, and then over time he changed because he started to see that the justice system doesn't reform people. There is no way out. It's just a revolving door. They go into the jail, then they come out. Nobody will give them a job.
Some of them come out of the jail before they're supposed to. Here in New Orleans, at least.
Yeah, and they rob, steal, or kill because they have no other means of survival, and then they go back in. And it's the same thing. You have a system that doesn't work. It just creates worse and worse criminals, and you keep having to jail more and more people in the system instead of giving everybody health care, giving everybody livable wages, giving everybody affordable housing. You know, it's a cycle. And you know, you look at the Scandinavian countries, once again, yes, I know I'm harping, but they have it figured out. They have some of the lowest crime rates anywhere in the world. They have the happiest mental health index worldwide. And guess what? They don't have sunshine all day long or, you know, whatnot. But the thing is that everything that they could ever possibly want or need is provided to them by the government, and they don't look at their taxes. And if they do, it's all transparent. They see where every dollar that they pay in taxes, where it goes, and how it gets, you know, put back to them in services. And they don't complain about it. They go, oh, you mean I just have to keep doing the same thing over and over, and eventually when I get to age 65, I can retire, and if I so choose, I can travel the world and see how the other half lives? Wonderful. Sign me up. You know? And it's easily reproducible down in the United States, but you guys have decided that, oh, the billionaires, we need to have billionaires because they have to have more money than God, and you know, I mean, it's horse shit.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
it's
like,
horse shit.
Like we have issues, like, I mean, not just like with the billionaires individuals, but like the huge companies too. Like we have some things going on in Louisiana right now, like the current legislative session. They're trying to do some legislation as it pertains to like laws on insurance, like automobile insurance, because what the conservatives hate are the trial lawyers. That's always the big thing. The trial lawyers are the problem. I'm like, look, I would believe you. I would potentially, I mean, lawyers can be shitty, absolutely. Lawyers might be shittier than most. I mean, whatever, in some cases at least. But the thing is that, you know, if you didn't have insurance companies trying to screw over their customers time and time again because you require people to have insurance, and as such, you have to, you know, if the insurance company is going to try and screw you over, then you need an attorney to prevent them from screwing you over. And unfortunately, in many cases, the people aren't smart enough to not get themselves, you know, in a hole immediately, so which is why they have to call an attorney immediately. Like people say I have a good understanding of the law for a layperson. There was one time I was rear-ended. I dealt with the insurance company directly. I didn't get a lawyer involved. I got my car fixed. I got my the small bit of physical therapy that I needed covered with the rehab, and I got a little bit on the extra for the hassle of dealing with all that crap. And like the first offer they gave me, I was like, no, that doesn't seem good enough. Second offer they gave me, no, that doesn't seem good enough either. Third offer they gave me, I was like, that seems fair, we'll take that. And then when I talked to an attorney friend of mine, he was like, I couldn't have got you any better for this car accident, and I would have then had to take 30%. So, like...
Well, that's the thing, you know. I mean, it's all a scam. The whole thing is about people. But, you know, one of the things that I wonder about, and I think might be essential for, you know, American education, would be teaching the law and say, here are the laws. Here are the things you can do, and here are the things you can't do. And here is the system. Here is how, you know, because, I mean, you have police officers out there who don't even know the law, and they're making it up as they go along, and they're constantly breaking it all the time, and until they're caught on camera, and then half the time they go and they cover their microphone as well as the body camera when they're doing stuff, and unless you've got your own camera and you're filming them the whole time, it's and that's the thing. And there's no penalties for, you were destroying evidence in a case, and they still get their qualified immunity. I mean, you guys live in a lawless society in terms of what law enforcement can do and get away with. I mean, there's still
Hain versus North Carolina is the case that just exactly that. You had an officer that stopped of somebody based on a mistake of law. The person, I think the person had a tail light out, like a singular tail light out, or a headlight out, or something. I think it was a tail light. And the person had a singular tail light out, and the police officer believed that was a pull-overable offense. But in reality, you would have had to have both out for it to be a pull-overable offense for them to be able to now search your car. But the person, the police officer, at least the Supreme Court said it was in good faith because they felt that he was acting like he believed that he was following the law even though he wasn't, and therefore enabled the search to be okay. And I'm like, no. If you get the law wrong, you shouldn't get to continue on putting this person, punishing this person through the law because you got it wrong. And the Supreme Court basically said, sorry, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. Well, things don't make sense to me. You guys live in an alternate universe reality that most people would not, unless they lived in another third world country where they were getting subjected to the same thing, if not worse, would not put up with. And, that's the thing. Like, even today, I tried the super stickers, and I didn't even, and, if I put certain words in, it would say, sorry, you need to edit your super sticker because it won't go through. And it's like, you've given me no rules as to what's acceptable. And the only thing that I could come up with is they are restricting political speech in a super sticker.
Have you updated your app? Is your app updated? Because technically speaking, because in a technical manner, technically speaking, like sometimes functionality won't work. Like I just resubscribed to myself using Amazon Prime with my Nerdy Dan account over on Twitch. And it wouldn't work until I updated the app. So, and I was having problems sometimes with, like, I was trying to give a super chat to Hal Sparks, and I wasn't even saying anything political. I was just like, "Hey, Sparklers, good to see you," and it kept on denying it. I had to do my super chats on a browser and not via the app, or maybe vice versa. I couldn't do it in the browser. I could do it in the app, but once I updated everything
I pretty much do everything by phone.
Yeah.
I pretty much do everything by phone on Android. But I was surprised that it wouldn't accept it, and it was like all he said was basically, the Republicans are cruel. You need to you need to make sure that cancer research is funded again. You're monsters. You claim to be for the people, but all you do is subject them to pain and suffering, as well as refuse to, have any accountability for your actions and whatnot. This is what's going on. And, free speech, hate speech is not free speech. Well, it is considered under free speech, but if I say, oh, well, now you have to account for your hate speech, or if it incited a riot, or it, what led to consequences for another person or whatnot, or better yet, the consequences fall back on you because you said something that, you can't take back and that other people heard and, or was on record, you have to think before you speak, and that's just it, but and then we came up with dog whistles. which was a sneaky way to get away with saying it but not saying it. You know, the Frank Luntz fuckery that he got started, you know, along with Newt Gingrich and the Tea Party and whatnot, you know.
Well, I mean, the dog whistle of the 14188, the executive order. I mean, everyone supposedly should, everybody who they wanted to know, you know, were probably like, yes, our president is supporting us because we're Nazis, we hate the Jews or whatever. And then, of course, you call them out on using 14188, which looks like 14/88, and they're like, no, that's just a coincidence. Yeah, fuck off. That's not a coincidence. That's you being.
Yeah, and then the 8/8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the 8/8 stuff, you know, and the, you know,
the 8/8 is part of the
cross.
14188 because it's 14 and then 8/8.
Yeah, and
it's all together. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Voltaeus, or whatever the name of that cross that Hegseth has on his thing, you know, I mean, it's just preposterous.
I'm sorry, isn't his name Hegseth now? Not Hegseth, but Kegseth?
Yeah. Yeah. I could call him lots of things, but, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is that they don't care.
No.
So long as they get their way, and that's the thing. You can call them names, you can shame them, but unless
Pam
there are
Keg Breath, that's even better. Pete Keg Breath. So.
Yeah, but the thing is that we have, you guys. I shouldn't say we. I keep saying we, but it's actually you guys. You guys keep not holding them accountable. There is no punishment for doing this cruelty and whatnot, and there's no accountability. And as a result, it just continues. Because they do one thing and they go, oh, well, we got away with it that time, so let's push it a little further. Let's see how much worse we can make it, you know, and until we get some pushback and learn where the line is, and that's as far as we can go today, but maybe we can push it further tomorrow, you know. I mean, what do you do with it from there?
Right.
But,
well, the thing is that
you know,
these people, like, you know, it's not even the problem of just the fact that you have the actual, like, you know, Nazis and the Nazi sympathizers or whatever who you know are pushing for these things and support these things. It's the fact that when you try and call them out on it they're like, well, you know, can you really call them Nazis? Because I mean, we don't have concentration camps in this country yet. You know, I'm like, because they don't want to see that, you know, that we're talking about 1933 Nazis and not 1942 Nazis. But they basically want people. Right, they want people to be in camps.
It wasn't the beginning.
Right.
Auschwitz was the final destination, you know, but it was the journey that got them to that point.
Right.
And that's the thing. The journey is the same as what Trump is going down. I mean, he's not nearly as bad as Hitler, but he's striving to get there. You know, he's just working at a slower pace and thinking that, you know, it's defeathering a chicken. You know, if you do it really slowly, people don't notice until it's too late, you know.
Right.
And,
they want
where we're
to be
at.
in concentration camps before we're allowed to say, oh, okay, maybe they are Nazis. I'm like, learn from your fucking history books, but that's why they don't want us learning history. Anyway, I do think Trucker John wants to call in, so let's go ahead.
Okay, no problem. And sorry if I took too long there.
No problem.
You know,
I mean,
sometimes
saves my vocal cords sometimes, right? So, but you know, I always appreciate your call, and everybody in the chat also appreciates your calls as well. So, thank you so much.
All right. Well, love you guys. Do your best to fix what is fucked up. Okay? Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right. So that was Big Hook. Let's turn off the volume again, and let's see if we can call Trucker John. Let's see if that works. Well, it went to voicemail, so Trucker John has to call me back, I guess. I tried to give Trucker John a return call, but anyway. Dean, YouTube just censored my comment right now. Oh, wow. Wonder what it is you said. Email me what you said. liberaldanradio@gmail.com. You send me an email as to what you said, and I want to see how bad or not bad, how ridiculous the YouTube censorship is. Right? Probably Trump sucks, maybe. Yeah. Let's see, 47, 34, only 34 felony. That's another good combination of numbers. 47, 34. So there we go. There's the ringy dingies. There we go. What's up, Trucker John? Good to hear from you.
Hey, Dan. What's up?
Not much.
What's your bad self?
Oh,
Hey,
just same old, same shit, different day.
I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
No, you were on the show though. You did video chat in, but you know this is this is technically your first call. So there you go. Hey, long time. Hey, welcome to the radio. Long time listener, first time caller. Hey. Sorry. Gotta do the radio voice.
I'm so nervous. Hey, I just wanted
love
to say,
you,
though,
love your show. You have to include that as being a first time caller as well. Love you, love your show.
Or I was just scrolling through the dial and I happened to come across your show.
Yes.
So
What's going on, Trucker John?
Well, hey, I just wanted to say, first of all, I just want to say, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, liberal Dan. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you very much. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Always
Be sure
good
to
to have a
tip
good
your
song.
servers. Yeah. So now, what's going on, man?
Oh, same old, working,
It's
running
just,
around like a crazy man. Like not tomorrow, but Wednesday. I actually have to bring my wife to 4 different appointments on Wednesday. It's nuts how much she's still going on. My radio voice, 250 kilo ohm says my radio voice is very Quagmire. Well, I think that's because Quagmire was the if you listen to Seth MacFarlane, I think he got Quagmire from like an old 50s or 40s radio show. Like his dad, I guess, helped him or listened to old radio shows with him, and that's where he got Quagmire. So it makes sense that when I'm trying to do the hey radio voice, that I would sound like Quagmire. Giggity. Anyway.
It all comes to it all makes sense now.
Yes.
You know, I was always wondering. But yeah,
I got emails from Jeff Cruer for Ringside Politics, the show I listen to. So I basically emailed him, letting her die isn't an abortion. Forcing her mother to pay medical bills so her brain dead corpse can be an incubator just proves how horrible conservatives are. Don't ever say, where are the feminists while this goes on? Jeff goes, I see your point, but... and as Tyrion Lannister says, or at least was said in Game of Thrones, everything before but is a lie. But for me, the unborn baby is a human that should be protected. I'm sorry the mother died, but the baby should be kept alive if possible. The medical costs should be covered by the state or non-profit pro-life groups, not the family, which may not be able to pay the massive bills. Look, at least we agree on something in that statement. But it's still ridiculous. And it's still not an abortion by a Georgia law. So... it's ridiculous.
And the Republicans never, ever cease to amaze me just in their hypocrisy and just, you know, I'll always be amazed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they will always be coming at us with this hypocrisy bullshit. And when are we going to learn, though? Like Big Hook is saying, you know, when are we going to learn? When are we going to stop taking it, you know? And so much information doesn't get through, though. I think that's the thing. So much information. This stuff that we talk about, it doesn't get through. I have, you know, I'm a taxi driver now. Right. I have passengers that they still talk about stuff about Trump from like 20 years ago. They're like 20 years behind the times. They still act like he's on The Apprentice, you know, and they buy the whole thing that he's this successful businessman and he's a mover and a shaker, and he doesn't take any guff. They really buy that whole apprentice bullshit, you know. And I'm thinking like, okay, have you not seen the 34 felonies he just got convicted from, you know, or the adjudicated rape? And I brought that up to some people, and they're like, I never even heard of that. They're like, this is news to me.
Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. That's just being willfully ignorant at this point if they haven't heard about it, or heard about them, I guess, or those.
But I think a lot of these Republicans, like the ones that I saw, like the Trump rally, I think they're like that.
Yeah.
Or they live in some cocoon or something. They live in this.
They live in a bubble. You know. They only listen to Fox News or Newsmax or Real America's Voice Radio or OAN or whatever. They only listen to those things, and they never listen to anybody else outside, so they can't hear opposing viewpoints. And even when they try to actually interact with accounts like mine or whatever, like they act like trained seals. They don't understand. Like, I was just showing this to a one Facebook chat group that I was in earlier today about how when I talk about like the so-called voter ID laws, and I will literally say the problem I have with these so-called voter ID laws is not the ID requirement itself, it's the other provisions in these laws that have nothing to do with the requirement to show an ID that makes it harder for people to vote. And even though I just said that, I guarantee you that some idiot conservative is going to come back and say, what's wrong with requiring an ID? And then they do it. And I'm like, did you not just read what I wrote? Because I just told you what you would do, and that would make you an idiot, and you just did it again. Because they just have these automatic responses that are just like in their brain. You know, what about, what's wrong with an ID? That's not what I said. Pay attention. But if they paid attention, attention would be broke.
Yeah, they get just a steady diet going all the way back to the Rush Limbaugh days, you know, and now it's Alex Jones or whoever. They just get the steady diet of these like talking points and the garbage, and they just repeat it. They just regurgitate it, you know. And
well,
I don't know what
they like to eat the regurgitation and then regurgitate it up themselves so that other people can eat it too. That's how they share.
Yummy, yeah.
Lovely. I hope nobody's eating right now while listening to Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central here on liberaldanradio.com and twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Hey. Anyway.
But, yeah, so I guess we just got to keep on keeping on as best we can.
Wait, I had to say, Tim in the chat, I don't want to disparage Republicans. If there are any Republicans in the chat, disparage means belittle. I see what you did there, Tim, and I appreciate it. Let's see, maybe Pam and over in Twitch, it's right out of the old Catholic Church, which dictated that followers shouldn't read the Bible because it only confused them. Let the priest interpret it for them. I never knew, like I was raised Jewish, obviously, so but I was aware of Catholicism, and I studied things like in like the New Testament to try and understand where these pro-life and other crazy conservatives were coming from. And then I said something to a bunch of Catholics one time when at a workplace or that place I was working, and I was like, but the Bible says this, and they're like, we're Catholics, we don't read the Bible. I'm like, what? Because I didn't know at the time, because didn't know that often they just, that only Catholics will say that only the church, the magisterium of the church, how they word it, is the only one capable of discerning what the true meaning of the biblical text are. I'm like, yeah, fuck off. No.
Well, I don't know. I thought that when I went to school, I had Catholic friends, and I thought they were into like the catechism, and I thought that was a real study of the Bible. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not a Catholic, so I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, with the new Pope, it has me once we got the new Pope, I have in my brain the Vatican rag from Tom Lehrer. Have you heard that one?
No.
So apparently, like, I don't have the piano to play, but Tom Lehrer actually, does great, not necessarily parodies, but like, funny songs by himself. And he actually put the lyrics and the music, the sheet music, into the public domain early, so that anybody who wanted to play his music and sing his songs can do so without any fear of getting any copyright violations. Now, that doesn't mean you could take his music that was already produced by a record label and play that on the air, because he doesn't have the ability to make that one. But the Vatican rag is like, let's see. First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect, and genuflect, 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 and then plays the piano a little bit. Do whatever steps you want if you have cleared them with the pontiff. Everybody say his own Kyrie eleison, doing the Vatican rag. And then he goes into some little ragtime music or whatever. Get in line in that processional, step into that small confessional. They're the guy who's got religion'll tell you if your sin's original. If it is, try playing it safer. Drink the wine and chew the wafer. 2, 4, 6, 8. Time to transubstantiate. So get down upon your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect, and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Make a cross on your abdomen. When in Rome, do like a Roman. Ave Maria, gee, it's good to see you. Getting ecstatic and sort of dramatic and doing the Vatican rag. Anyway, there you go. That's my singing.
Wow. Was that from memory? Did you do that from memory?
I did that from memory, yes.
That's amazing.
I used to listen to that album all the time. Like, my dad introduced me to Tom Lehrer, like, when I was maybe like 7 or 8 or whatever. And some of the jokes I didn't get, because like a lot of the album was like made in the 60s and refer to like 1960s events. Like, one of the songs is like about Hubert Humphrey. And he like starts off the thing like, I don't know who anybody remember Hubert Humphrey? He used to be a senator, and everyone laughed because he was vice president or whatever. And one of the best lines in that song is, "Second fiddle is a hard part, I know, when they don't even give you a bow." So it's funny. So.
Well, I'm impressed. I had to write down the words of Happy Birthday, just so you know. I mean, that's how bad my memory is.
That's funny. Wait, Tim Farrell, do Jesus Christ Superstar. I don't quite know that one. I mean, I could be like, Jesus Christ Superstar. Like, I know that from the commercials that would play when that, I guess, was traveling around the country or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I hear someone say like, "Oh, Jesus Christ," the first thing comes out to my head is Superstar. You know, so.
But although there is another interesting or fun Tom Lehrer song that is let's see, the Masochism Tango. But I don't know if I should do that one on this one or save it for if I ever do Liberal Dan Radio After Dark or something.
It's that blue. So.
Pam just brought up Masochism Tango, and I bet you Pam did not hear me say it as she was typing it. But I didn't see her type it until after I said Masochism Tango. That I love when that happens. The same thing happened with Erin and her first. She goes, "Yep, reading your mind." That happened with the first ever buy me a coffee or buy me a cider thing. I was like, I'm wondering how that's going to work because no one's bought me a cider yet. So I'm wondering how that looks like when it happens. And then it immediately happened because Erin was in the process of doing it while I was saying it. But she did it before I actually said it, before she actually heard it with the delay. So, yeah, me and Pam, I got you, Pam, right there. And there's also Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, which is also hilarious. Those weren't on the first album I used to listen to, so I had to expand my knowledge of Tom Lehrer before I got to Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, and my dad would have never played me Masochism Tango. So, and then there's also he did another one where he was like he made it sound very Jewish, but on a piano. But I guess there was I think he had clarinets behind him as well. I'm spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica, wearing sandals, lighting candles on the sea. I spent Shavuos in East St. Louis, a charming spot, but nearly quite the spot for me. Those eastern winters, I can't endure 'em, so every year I pack my gear, come out here to Purim, Rosh Hashanah, I spent in Arizona, and Yom Kippur way down in Mississippi. But in December, there's just one place for me. Amid the California flora, I'll be lighting my menorah like a baby's cradle. I'll be playing with my dreidel. I'm spending Hanukkah in Santa Monica by the sea. That was by heart too, so.
Wow. Is this guy on? Can we find him on YouTube? Maybe?
Oh, if you search Tom Lehrer on YouTube, you'll find all of his stuff. Yeah, all of his videos are on YouTube. Even though this was the year that has a lot of stuff that relates to like stuff that was going on in the 60s or whatever. There's still things that will become that you'll understand. Most people will understand. Most people will get, even if you weren't alive back then. Because even though I'm old, I wasn't alive in the 60s. So.
Oh, I was very much alive. No, I'm very old.
But yeah,
I lived through it. I survived.
There's a song about nuclear proliferation going on and who's getting the bomb, and like that's a funny. I won't spoil that song, but but yeah, Tom Lehrer is great. If you haven't listened to Tom Lehrer, everybody should go listen to Tom Lehrer. Lehrer.
I have a feeling I bet you I've heard some of those. So I'll recognize it when I hear it.
He's had some other songs. He's had some other songs, I think, on some PBS Kids show or whatever. I forget which one, but they had a couple of them that aired on that he made for those specifically. And then, but yeah, there's a song about the new math that he just sings about how you do it, and then he switches up because he wants you to do it in bass 8, and one of the bass 8 is just like bass 10 if you're missing 2 fingers. So,
wow,
which is funny if you. Oh yeah. For might makes right until they see the light. They have to be protected, all their rights respected, till somebody we like can be elected. Members of the Corps all hate the thought of war. They'd rather kill 'em off by peaceful means. Stop calling it aggression. Ooh, we hate that expression. We all only want the world to know that we support the status quo. They love us everywhere we go, so when in doubt, send the Marines. Anyway, yeah, I listen to that maybe far too much. Although I'm probably impressing Pam right now from doing this all by heart, but I mean, maybe I'm sure Pam knows it all by heart too. So,
who knew there was these Tom Lehrer fans out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I want to say that, it's possible that I think one of Weird Al's, one of his people who influenced him, one of them I think was Tom Lehrer. So plus clearly other things like Dr. Demento and stuff like that, but yeah. And he's coming to New Orleans, and I've emailed his press folks. Like I emailed his agency and was like, I would love to have a 5-minute interview with him for my podcast, but I haven't heard back from him yet.
He's still alive?
Weird Al?
Oh, Weird Al. I think about Tom Lehrer.
Yeah, I think Tom Lehrer may very well still be alive as well. I mean, he's just not performing, but at least he was, I think, very recently.
Wow. That'd be a good interview to get that guy.
Oh, I love that, but I don't think he does. I don't think he does many.
I think Weird Al was performing in Vegas not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, he has this one. It's actually on my mom's birthday. That's how I remember the date that the concert's coming in. But I bought tickets like last year, well before all of this crap started happening. And yeah, and it's weird because even though I'm more of a fan of Weird Al than my wife, she's seen him one more time than me, and she always rubs that in.
Well, if I see Weird Al here in Vegas, I'll tell him that
Liberal Dan wants to emailed your agents and wants to interview you when you're in New Orleans. So we'll see.
Yeah, tell me get on that. You never know. Hey, the other day I was right in the middle of. At the time, I didn't know, but apparently there was a robbery on the Strip, and I was kind of right in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was at Caesar's Palace. Well, I was on the Strip driving the taxi cab, and all of a sudden there was like all these cop cars all around me, and they had the lights on and stuff, and they were going really slow. So I kind of was going slow and slower and slower because I didn't know what they were doing, and you could tell it was like they were trying to find somebody, but it was weird. And then I was even at the Caesar's Palace to pick somebody up, and that's where they went. So they had the whole thing all kind of messed up.
Wow.
And I didn't even know what was going on until like the next day. I heard on the news that there was some robbery, and they still haven't found the guy. I guess they were, like I said, they were looking. I could tell they were looking for somebody.
Is it one of the people that escaped the OPP prison here in New Orleans, or was it before that?
This was just 2 nights ago.
Well, maybe one of the people from New Orleans was smart and made their way to outside of New Orleans to escape capture, but most of them, apparently at least half of them, are not smart, because half of them got captured back from escaping the OPP prison. And of course, you know, they were asked, "You down with OPP?" and they said nope, and they escaped. So
yeah, I was wondering about how he was still out there. I saw this morning, I think all 10 were still.
No, they caught 3 over the weekend, and because 3 of them were caught at a Raising Cane's chicken place or whatever.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's the first place I would look, because
right, you know. And it was like, but it wasn't like the closest Raising Cane's. It was one on the other side of the river. So apparently, according to AI, at least, there are 6 escapees that are still at large. So they caught 1 today, and then the other 3 were caught the other day. So let's see, where did they catch him? That's what I want to know. Let's see, 4th inmate escaped New Orleans jail was captured Monday. 6 men remain at large. Blah 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 blah. Are they saying where? They're not.
The first thing I thought of was that TV show Prison Break. Did you ever watch that?
Oh yeah, and it's funny because the Prison Break show had two actors who also played parts in Flash, or they played like bad guys in the Flash or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so and then one time they both had to escape prison. I was like, whoa, that's kind of, they probably did that purposefully.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the 2 main guys, I think, were in that.
Yeah.
The 2 brothers, yeah. They played brothers, yeah.
Yeah, yes. Let's see. 4th inmate Gary Price was captured by Louisiana State Police in an abandoned home on Good Drive in New Orleans East. So why would you stay in New Orleans? That makes you more likely to get caught. Like, flee far away. Like, I don't want to give them advice. I don't want to be seen as aiding and abetting, people who are, accused of, like, terrible felonies or whatever. They're apparently all considered armed and dangerous. One of them has, like, big face tattoos as well. It's like, dude, you're going to get caught. If you're not caught yet, you're going to get caught, because there's no way people are going to be like, yeah, that's not you. No, that you have the tattoos. That's clearly you. So, I did want to say there's another song that everybody should go look up if they're going to go listen to Tom Lehrer after listening to the show. National Brotherhood Week is another good Tom Lehrer song to listen to, by the way. So,
I will check that out. For sure. But for those prisoners, were they in street clothes, or were they wearing?
I think they were in like the regular prison garb or whatever, but they must have found a way to get new clothes or something. But yeah, half of them like ran across the because literally, if you're driving on the interstate between downtown New Orleans and heading towards the lake, Lake Pontchartrain, which is heading in the direction of where Metairie is, which is the next parish over. You pass right by OPP. You pass right by the jail, and the video shows them like at least some of them like running across the interstate. So I mean, they're already taking their own life in their own hands trying to do that, because it was I don't know if it was dark or not when it happened, but yeah, like they even left like graffiti on like right above the hole, because apparently what they did is they pulled a toilet out and then climbed through that hole. And they just put too easy LOL, but they spelled two wrong. They put TO instead of TOO. So, I'm very jealous, Pam, that you got to meet Dr. Demento in Reno.
I'm not seeing Pam. Is she on Twitch or on?
She's on Twitch, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right.
We actually have 16 viewers on Twitch tonight, which is great. Like that never happened. Well, it just dropped to 15, but as soon as I said something. But yeah, it's great that we have that many viewers on, and actually it's really 14, because one of them is me, one of them is my Nerdy Dan account. So
I never get anybody. I get maybe one person on Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to get built up. Are you monetized yet on Twitch?
No.
That is the that is our project for June. Our project for June, Danimals, is to get Trucker John monetized on Twitch, which means we need at least 3 people watching every stream. How many times you stream a week?
About 5. I don't know. Well, like 3, I guess. 3.
3,
but I might do more.
You should have enough hours and total number of shows to be able to hit the monetization, as long as we can get 3 people watching for the entirety of the show. So everyone, we need to do that. So we're gonna get Trucker John monetized in June. That's my goal, getting you monetized.
I kind of, it's kind of my own fault, I guess, because I always forget about Twitch. So I guess Twitch forgets about me,
Yeah.
But
well, it took me forever to get monetized with my Nerdy Dan channel, because I didn't really know, I couldn't get the numbers, I couldn't get the numbers right. And then finally, once I kind of merged Nerdy Dan and Liberal Dan into the one entity, and just say that nerdydan.com is a project of Liberal Dan Radio, then by bringing that in, it was basically like Jolie, Aaron, Andrea sometimes, and then my kids who were just watching along with me, because you only need an average of 3 viewers an hour. But I mean, you have to have them for the entire show. But yeah, I was able to finally figure that out. And then once we got monetized here on YouTube, we had in January, we were like, okay, let's do Twitch, and we got Twitch done in less than a month. It was great. So Pam, I like Twitch because I could avoid the trolls on YouTube. That makes sense. Also, Twitch tends to be better for having me read your comments, but let's see. Oh, my wife is calling me. Hold on, let me see what she has to say. Yes, I'm still doing my show. What you need? You can give him a Tylenol. I mean, that should be fine. Have you given him a... Okay. Well, I'll do that when I'm done the show. I should be done shortly. All right. Bye. Apparently, my child doesn't feel very well, and they can't find the ibuprofen. Like he mentioned, he called earlier and was like, or he didn't call earlier. He sent a message in Twitch asking for where the ibuprofen was, but he didn't say I have a headache, whatever. So.
All right.
Wait, somebody said David and Greg Perry just retracted the message, like Liberal Dan. In other words, EZ. I'm like, who you calling easy? But he retracted the message, so who knows? So, but I'm probably ending the show. I was probably going to end the show anyway, but I did tell Jolie that I would make time for you, because I always make time for Trucker John. I love Trucker John.
Well, I appreciate that. And I just wanted to come in and say happy birthday. And
thank you.
And take it easy over there. And 8647. No.
Exactly, 8647. I took a screenshot of the show and put it into the chat with Jeff Crouer, and it was like, so do you think I'm calling for his death now too, or do you think that I'm like the most reasonable people who know that 86 only has to do with like food and stuff, and the only people who say it has to do with violence have mob ties. So anyway. So thank you so much for calling in, John. Thank you so much for singing me the happy birthday song, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime.
All right, peace out, my brother.
All right, take care. Talk later.
All right. Oh, yes. I guess technically, if I was born on the East Coast, so technically on the East Coast it is my birthday. So, but I still have an hour left here before it becomes my birthday. But East Coast time, I am now 49. Ugh. So, yes, go follow Trucker John on Twitch. Trucker John needs, I want to say he also needs 50 followers on Twitch. So let's first of all go ahead, if I have not followed him yet. He only has 38 followers. Now he has 39 followers. Hold on. Oh, that's on, I have to see that on YouTube and not on the Twitch. But yeah, I'll go ahead and follow that. That's Trucker John 3 on Twitch. So I'll go ahead and just email that to myself just so I know, so I can follow it from other stuff. TJ link, boom, done. Okay. So there's that. Anyway, so If you are watching on Twitch, again, we haven't found a good... oh, wait, it's tomorrow. So, Steve, what are the lottery numbers over there? Boom, boom, shh. You know.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
Anyway, so Trucker John will be on 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 8 Mountain, or no, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. 10 Mountain, 11 Central Time, 12 noon on the East. So, happy birthday from the EST. Thank you so much. And happy Tuesday to everybody else who's not. Happy unbirthday to those who aren't celebrating tomorrow. But for me, it will be my birthday tomorrow. So, again, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who contributed fan funding today. Again, we got Triva, who became a new liberal Danimal. Bicycle Mike gave some. Big Hook, Molly, Fred. Leanna Geyer gave like a grand total of $129.98 worth of super chats. So that should pay for dinner tomorrow. Got Marie, who sent 5 Liberal Dan memberships out there. Dean with another 2. Again, I'm more than happy to take, you know, Venmo or what have you. Let's see, let's put Do Not Disturb. Let's turn that off. But the best thing you could do for my birthday, comment, like, share videos, make sure that get other people to subscribe to the channel. Let's help me get, while we're getting Trucker John to become monetized on Twitch, let's send the goal for 2,000 subscribers here on YouTube as well. That would be a nice next jump, a next goal to try and reach. So we're at 1.2, I think, at this point. So let's hope for some more. So, but again, if you're listening on or watching on Twitch, again, we haven't found a good outro music that's good for both shows, because for some reason they flag the Nimbus Evening Land song over on Twitch. It says it's a copyright violation, even though it's supposed to be free to use on YouTube, but maybe it's only free to use on YouTube, and that's the problem. So until we find a better one, we'll just have to do a hard out on Twitch. So for those watching on Twitch, thank you so much. Well, actually, maybe we'll go out on Twitch listening to this week's Hypocrite of the Week, and then we will hang up. We will end the Twitch show there. Otherwise, we will, and then we'll play the regular show outro on YouTube as normal. So until, I don't know if I'm doing Nerdy Dan tomorrow. I'll post about that on my socials or whatever. I'll let the Mod Squad know as well. We'll see. We'll see what's going on, because who knows what we're doing for my birthday. But until then, thank y'all very much. Appreciate everybody for supporting the show, for coming out, for spending time with me as always. And till next time, you have a good one. Peace. This week's Hypocrites of the Week are the entirety of MAGA. MAGA folks are whining over James Comey posting 8647. They claim it's a call for violence. 86, to most people, is the restaurant term for removing something from the menu. Only the mafia thinks otherwise. Are you part of the mafia, MAGA folks? To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio for more talk from the left. That's right. Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the... Yeah, I screwed that up.